You're listening to the Tuesday Review. I'm Nathan, as always, joined by Callum, Alum, and James. How you going, guys?
Not bad.
What's up?
I'm okay. I was going to say Callum's just nodding. I'm tired. I'm sorry. All right, he's always tired.
It's very low energy on Tuesdays.
Yeah.
Every time we do a show, we're just kind of
it's
like,
just, you know. it's
Ideally, we should do it after dinner, but we do it before. We have to do it
Yeah.
before
After
dinner.
dinner, just be like burping and then like, oh, I'm tired. I'm going to fall asleep.
yeah.
Just get
I don't know,
snooze.
but then at least you got the energy from dinner,
Sometimes.
It
Or
depends
you
what you
or you go in a coma. Yeah,
the
food
coma.
coma.
Everyone's like, just. Oh wait, sorry. Yeah,
Yeah.
back to the
Yeah.
topic.
All right. So last week we discussed James's top 25 movies of 2022, and this week we're continuing with honorable mentions and just sort of
Other notable
films, other
films,
notable.
yeah. Anything. So first off, I'm going to quickly go through my honorable mentions and sort of notable films as quickly as I can, which probably take a while. But then after that, Callum, Nathan, and Alum have a copy of my list, and they can, just ask me about anything they want. The honorable. So yeah, if you haven't listened to the last week's episode, definitely listen to that first before you listen to this, because that's where I go through my top 25 of 2022. But yeah, now I'm just going to go through some of my honorable mentions, ones that I would like to, rank in my top 25, but wasn't really sure about. And so have just listed them underneath in alphabetical order. So there's no preference. There's no order to them. I won't go in alphabetical order as I talk about them on the show. To save time, I'll just kind of go up and down the list and like group things together by genre or by how I watch them or whatever. Or, if there's any other relation. First thing I do want to mention, the biggest honorable mention is Nope. Jordan Peele's Nope.
Yeah.
It was one of my most anticipated movies of 2022. I love Jordan Peele. I watch anything he does. I saw it twice in a row at the cinema, and we did a review of it already last year. The only reason I left it off my top 25 is because I had problems with the third act. I had a little problems with some of the CGI, but it was a really good movie, and I really did like it, and I want to rewatch it soon. And
Unique.
yeah, it's very, very good.
And good use of animals in movies, which we're about.
Well, that's kind of the problem we had when we discussed it. Was it's like, yes, it was.
I mean the writing and stuff, not the.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay, yeah.
Not
Not the CGI, yeah.
I
Because
mean
that's the thing.
like actual horse riding and that's.
And the horses were real horses, so that was good. Yeah, all that stuff was good. The movie looked really good. It's really creepy and funny, and there are bits in that movie that will stick with me for a long time. It's very effective. And I feel bad not putting it in my top 25 because I think it's probably, I liked it more, or it's better than some of my low top 20s, top 25. So I've got my list in front of me. I'm going to put a big old arrow from Nope in my honorable mentions. And I'm going to go put it all the way up to, I don't know exactly what number it would be, but I'm going to put it.
So what you're saying is the top 25 is now the top 26.
Top 26. It's just, and I'm going to write, sorry, Jordan, for doubting you. Because I should have put it in the top 25, but I wasn't really feeling it. I did have problems with the ending. But I think it deserves to be somewhere in there. I don't know where, but
Yeah.
yeah, so Nope. So I had a couple of horror movies on there which I moved off, which I'll talk about later. I've got The Menu on there. That's another movie we already talked about. That was a movie where it's like, I don't know how much I like this, but I think the kind of black comedy, the dark humor of it, elevated it.
I think The Menu was interesting.
Yeah, it's very well made.
It gets points for being interesting.
Yeah, and
it's not amazing. It's interesting.
Yeah, and I think when we talked about it on the show, like I think as I was watching it, I'm like, oh, this is a good thriller. If it was just a thriller, it would just be okay. But I think because I found it so funny, it elevated it a bit more for me. And I was kind of like, I think I really like this, but I'm not sure. I'm still not sure, and that's why it's in my honorable mentions and not in my top 25. Triangle of Sadness, I've mentioned on the show before. Also a very good film. Probably should be in my top 25, but it wasn't perfect. But but I really did like it, and I think it's really good. The House. So this is an interesting movie. It came out in like January on Netflix. It's a stop motion animated movie, which I love stop motion. And it's like 3 sort of unconnected stories, like an anthology, all different sort of stop motion styles, but each one is just centered around a house. That's the only connection. And I really liked I think it was the first story, which is like a creepy kind of House of Leaves-esque like mansion
nice.
it keeps growing on the, keeps growing, and they keep getting bigger and bigger rooms, and yeah, it was really creepy. And the other stories were good as well. But yeah, that was an interesting movie that I really enjoyed. What else? Okay, so here's a movie, Crimes of the Future. We reviewed this.
We did.
What else can I say? David Cronenberg's back.
Just wish it had a bigger budget.
Yeah.
There was a meme recently on Twitter, a trending thing. What movies prominently feature people who have stomach aches? And and someone put a picture of Crimes of the Future with the chair, and that was like the top movie about stomach aches of all time. And I'm like, yeah, kinda.
Yeah, that's like the whole movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was just good, weird,
Practical.
Cronenberg. Yeah, lots of cool little practical things.
Trying to one up his son in an arms race.
Hey,
Yeah.
it's good for us.
Yeah. Keep him battling on the silver screen.
Although so far, I feel like his son's probably winning by a little bit.
His son has more energy, but David Cronenberg knows the craft.
See, here's the problem with that. Is Crimes of the Future is David Cronenberg's first feature film since 2014. And Brandon Cronenberg has made 3 movies in the last 5 or 6 or 7 to 10 years. So if we're just taking into account the last few years, one's got more to show for it. But David Cronenberg is the master, and he has obviously a bigger
back
catalog. And also it's not really fair because David Cronenberg used to make weird movies back in the 70s and 80s where you could still get away with that stuff, and even though they weren't quote unquote big budget, they still had some production behind them.
Yeah.
Whereas now, both he and his son have to work in very limited time and money, and they do both a good job.
I'm only talking about recent movies. If it's talking about the whole back catalogue, it's not even a competition.
Oh yeah.
It's like Videodrome alone.
But you're saying But you're saying Crimes of the Future versus Infinity Pool and Possessor. You like Possessor and Infinity Pool.
I would say they're better movies.
Yeah, but Brandon gets more money, doesn't he? Surely the budget for Infinity Pool.
Both of them were pretty.
Possessor would be.
Both of them were pretty low budget.
Infinity Pool was definitely low budget, but I feel like Possessor
was low budget. Remember, the whole thing takes place mostly in the same sort of small, and we were kind of talking about how there's definitely a bigger idea behind it.
Oh,
Anyway, it was good. Crimes of the Future was good. What else is there?
Smile.
Just go alphabetical order, James.
I like Smile.
Okay, so Smile, both Smile and Barbarian were in my honorable mentions. Mostly because
they were awesome.
Yeah, but also like I didn't expect to like Smile at all.
Yeah.
And I ended up really liking it.
Did you see Smile with us?
Yes. That's funny because you weren't going to see, James wasn't going to see it initially. And we were like, because, you listen to the show, you know that most of us in the studio, we love going to see just crap horror movies at the cinemas. We're all about that lifestyle. James doesn't want to waste his money, which I fully understand.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So when we watch it, we come to the station, we're like, James, you got to see it. You got to see it.
Actually, before you guys saw it, I kept hearing online, oh, it's actually really good. It's not one of those dumb, crappy throwaway horror movies. It's actually good. And I'm like, okay, I'll watch it, but I'm trying to save money.
Yeah.
I don't want to keep going to the movies to see everything. I'll wait for streaming. Then you guys see it come, and I start getting FOMO, and I'm like, all right, I'll go see it. And I think that's why it was that, and Barbarian as well. It was like unexpectedly
good. Oh, awesome.
And also it took an unexpected turn.
Yeah.
and I was just like, I really like these movies, and I put them on my honorable mentions, and I'm like, but would they be in my top 25? And I was kind of thinking, I'm like, I liked both of them, but I had problems with both of them, so I'm unsure. And
horror movies are hard to. That's also something about horror movies generally is a lot of the time they do have some problems.
Yeah, but it depends. Yeah, and like I don't know.
In this case, for me, I felt the one of the strengths of Smile was the fact that it played not on just the horror, but also the psychological aspect of grief.
But I still have problems with it.
I personally probably would have put Smiley in my top 25. If I had seen 25 movies.
Yeah, exactly. You probably haven't even seen 25 movies from 2022. But that's what I'm saying is like, I'm not exactly sure. So I did on my list, I put a big old arrow from Barbarian and Smile down from my honorable mentions down into my runners up list, which is still honorable mentions, but not ones that I would feel like maybe were in my top 25.
You know what the thing is?
I'm just unsure. I'm never doing this again. This is too much work, and I'm unsure. I don't like ranking films this way.
You need horror needs its own separate ranking, because the problem with horror is that, like, if compiling a list like this one, horror is like, it's not good to get right, but it's good to get entertaining. Whereas dramas, like, and most of your top 25 are like, dramas, kind of action or action adventure kinds of films. It's like, especially with dramas, it's easier to get that emotional core through to people. Whereas in a horror movie, you have your scares, but then it can be a bit more tricky to get that emotional impact through because the horror movies are structured differently. You know what I mean?
I think it's also there hasn't been a lot of horror movies in the last 10, 20 years that have
wowed audiences.
Wowed me personally as much as the 70s, 80s, and 90s horror movies that I love have.
Yeah, well, it's because of the CG.
Mostly,
it's all
and
changed.
The PG-13.
So it's like I wouldn't think most people wouldn't have many horror movies in their personal top 25.
Oh, I think a lot of people. It just depends on the person. Like, I love horror movies. We've talked about on the show, but yeah, there are a lot of bad ones, and even the good ones, they never really hit that spot for me personally. Where I'm like, this is a perfect.
I agree, because you're looking for that emotional reaction, and most horror movies released now. Probably aren't going to get the same. It's not even the
emotional. It's like Evil Dead 2, one of my favorite horror movies of all time, would be probably in my top favorite movies.
You don't tear up when Ash has to cut his hand off?
Yeah, it is so sad. But A Farewell to Arms falls off the bookshelf. Love that movie. Anyway, we talked about it. So Evil Dead 2, one of my favorite movies of all time, let alone horror movies. But Evil Dead Rise, enjoyable, but it would never come even near close my top movies of 2023.
Yeah, of course.
It was just a fun. But I think Smile and Barbarian were much better than that, but they're also slightly more elevated by, in Barbarian's case, by humor and twists we didn't see coming, and by interesting filmmaking choices. And with Smile is just like competent.
A return to an older style of horror movie.
A competent
psychological horror movie.
So, but also like a competent level of always keeping you on your toes.
That's it.
Whereas we talked about when we reviewed it, like, I hate jump scares. They're cheap and boring. And Smile has too many jump scares, like one every 5 minutes. But they got me good a couple of times. I'm like, all right, I'll pay.
But it also had
the moment when she like suplexes herself into the table,
the glass table. Oh, that's a good scene.
But it also has a really, really interesting script, which is like a lot of the time, some of these horror movies, they kind of just like
a lot of these movies as well, not just horror, but other movies, is like the ending is what
they don't stick the ending.
Kept it from me being like, oh, this is top 25. If they just stuck the landing, then I would have been like, this is... And I'll talk about that a bit later. One horror movie, however, an exception to this, is a horror movie I saw called Incantation on Netflix. Ooh. And this is a Taiwanese horror film, found footage.
Is this about the occult?
A little bit, yeah. It's about...
You're not going to ask Alan what he thinks it's about?
No, we don't have time. I'll try to get through these as quickly as possible, Sorry, and then we can do some stuff like that. But yeah, it's a Taiwanese film, like found footage about a mother making a documentary about her daughter. She thinks her family's cursed by some sort of like...
I think I've seen a trailer for this film.
It came out on Netflix, and I was like, "Oh, that looks interesting." And Netflix has a lot of horror movies, and there are a lot of found footage horror movies, and you just kind of ignore most of them. But it was on my 2022 list, so I watched it, and ended up really liking it. And I think Callum might really like it because it deals a lot with Eastern spiritualism,
cool,
and sort of negative energy, and sort of Eastern mythologies and faiths that, you know, like we don't get much exposure to in our day-to-day most Western horror movies obviously are based on Christian, you know,
or pagan horrors and such.
Exactly. Whereas this one, I liked how it dealt with do you remember at the start of The Empty Man where like the first half an hour is just in Nepal or wherever they are, Tibet or whatever, and it's that kind of Eastern, it's like it's got that kind of stuff, but it's found footage, which, you know, can be awful. But I thought it was well done and the ending was effective.
Yeah, cool.
So I think you guys should watch it. I think you guys will like it. That was a good horror movie that actually stayed in my honorable mentions because I thought it was... I think a lot of my top 25 and honorable mentions are movies that surprised me, where I was like, oh, I didn't expect that to be good, and it was, and so I'm going to put it up there.
Well, found footage is like you said, like generally I'm not a huge fan of found footage, but when it's done well, it can be really, really interesting.
Yeah.
Because I would say it's mostly an editing skill, isn't it? Found footage to kind of weave a narrative with.
Yeah, and also
kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Experimental kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Because found footage is mainstream now, but it still has that experimental kind of feel to me because it's so.
Yeah,
it's awkward to edit.
It's trashy, but VHS is a good example when it's done right.
We talked about analog horror. When we talked about Skinamarink, when we reviewed Skinamarink, and it's like that's so hot right now, but I think, it's hard. They do it mainly because it's cheap, and they don't always execute it well. And if you're one of those purists, like found footage purists, Incantation does have bits where I'm like, oh, that camera angle doesn't make sense. Oh, there's music there. That doesn't make sense. There wouldn't be music. It's not a pure found footage in the fact that it's completely... If you want to nitpick it that way, there are things. But that didn't bother me. I don't really care about that so much. And it wasn't like every scene was like, oh, they should have just shot this as a normal movie.
Yeah.
But that was a good movie. I think you guys will like it. And
I might check it out.
It surprised me how much I enjoyed it, and which is why it stayed on my... honorable mentions. Another similar one that I think Callum will really like, not similar, but it, you know, spiritualism and all that, is a Macedonian movie called You Won't Be Alone. Now, this one's interesting because I think it's the first Macedonian language film I've seen. And it's set in like Macedonia in like the 1800s, and there's some like witchy, folklore-y, Eastern European folklore-y stuff. I think Callum might appreciate some of it. And that was an interesting movie. I really enjoyed that. It was directed by a guy who, I think he's originally from Serbia, but he came over to Australia to go to film school, and I think he's like Australian guy now. So that's interesting. I'll be interested to see. He's got a new movie out this year, so I want to watch that as well.
What's that about? Do we know?
It's like coming of age drama, like set in Melbourne or Sydney. So it's like a completely different shift in thing. But as a filmmaker, I'm interested to see what he does with it, because I thought You Won't Be Alone was quite well done.
Yeah.
What else have I got? The Five Devils, a French movie, which I didn't know anything about. I just had an actor I liked, and it looked interesting. I started watching it, and I had no idea really what it was about. And then something happened. I was like, "Oh crap! I didn't know that was going to happen." I think Callum might appreciate some of it. It's got maybe magical realism or light fantasy elements. It's mostly like a character drama, like a relationship drama. But then there was just bits where I'm like, oh, this is a bit spooky and fantasy, which I didn't expect. Yeah, that was a good movie.
Is it available anywhere?
I don't know. We'd have
the
to
internet.
Yeah, somewhere out there. It's another one where the ending, I think it could have been a bit longer, and the ending didn't really quite do it for me. But there was enough interesting stuff in there where I was like, I think I got to put this on my list somewhere. And the last but not least, One Punch.
What about Photocopier?
Oh, yes. Thank you, Nathan. Photocopier, another interesting movie. Saw on Netflix. Netflix still has a lot of good stuff. You just have to
dig,
yeah.
Before they delete it.
And you also have to
Cancel,
watch almost 150 films and whittle out the good Netflix ones. Photocopier is an Indonesian film that came out in January on Netflix.
It's interesting that Netflix's best films at the moment seem to be
foreign
international/foreign movies.
Yeah, they have a lot of good. Yeah, I think we were talking about Korean stuff off air. I don't know if we're talking about on air.
We haven't talked about it on air. Maybe briefly, but there's a lot of good Korean stuff coming to Netflix.
I think we talked about it.
That's only going to increase as the writer strike continues.
There's a lot of not even just Asian stuff, like just
There's a lot of Indian stuff on there.
Oh yeah,
there's a lot of different foreign movies.
Yeah, but Photocopier is an Indonesian movie. I saw the trailer and I was like, oh, I don't know, this looks interesting. I thought it was like maybe a supernatural mystery kind of thriller. But it's not at all. It's like more of a drama thriller. I don't want to spoil it, but I actually ended up really, really liking it. And I thought it was quite well done. And so, yeah, it went into my honorable mentions. It was a good movie. And yeah, last but not least, One Punch. Friend of the show, Darcy Yule, came on, the writer-director.
The first time we felt like big shots. Second time,
yeah.
But we got to see a screener.
That's it.
Our second director interview.
First time we saw a movie when we didn't pay for it.
Yeah. Darcy came to talk about his film One Punch with us, and we got to watch it. And again, for a no budget movie shot on an iPhone.
Yeah. Plus benefits for no cultural cringe at all. It was just a good solid drama.
Yeah, for shot in Melbourne, I was like, oh, we go there. Oh, we went past it.
Alan's just like, he's going back to the city. Yeah, he's coming back. I'm like, the road angles don't make sense.
And the friend of the show, Christian, was doubting a man's Italianness, and it turns out the man was born in Italy.
Yeah. Christian confidently wrong. Silent producer confidently wrong. Christian. But anyway, yeah, we all surprisingly we all really enjoyed it, and I was surprised by how much I did enjoy it, and I think it's a testament to good filmmaking doesn't need $200 million.
That's right.
You just need passion and a bit of know-how, and like Darcy said when he came to talk about it with us, no one's going to give you permission, so just go out and do it.
Yeah, that's it.
And that's, I think, something I'm trying to work towards, because I'm always like, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that, but I never do. So I think it's not only is it a good movie, especially for the restrictions it had, but it's also like an inspiring piece of work. Also, I mean, Skinamarink was... I didn't know what to do with this movie. I feel like I had to mention it. So
Skin him a stink.
No.
All right.
No.
For Nathan, for me and Callum, more like...
I think Alan would agree with me on this. Skin him stinks.
I still maintain... I think it was like 40 minutes in.
I don't think I have.
No,
40 minutes.
But he wouldn't like it. No, Alan wouldn't like it. No way.
I still maintain... Nathan and everyone else I've shown it to, obviously, but James hates it. But 42 minutes in, I was so stressed out I had to pause and have a cup of tea. I had to...
42 minutes in, I was browsing my phone being like, this is more interesting.
Yeah, I had to come back, you know what I mean? If I was a smoker, I'd be outside having a cigarette.
I had to come back and grab a cigarette for a different reason.
Yeah.
It was a very effective, very emotional movie that I actually thought was... fairly incredible for what they did with the money they had.
So originally it wasn't... So like I said, originally Barbarian and Smile were both in my honorable mentions, and I wasn't really sure about them, so I moved them down to my runners up. Skinamarink I wrote in pen in my honorable mentions as well, but then I was like, you know what, if Barbarian and Smile aren't there, I'm going to move Skinamarink down to runners up.
So I have to ask at this point, roller derby team and then somebody's murdering them and wearing the skin?
No, but that's a good guess. That's a good guess. So I had it on my honorable mentions. I moved it. I wrote it in last minute because I'm like, I feel like I have to mention it. And then I was just like, no, I think it has to move down to my runners up because it wouldn't be in my top 25. No. But I had to mention it because it's such a weird...
it's such a force of nature.
It's a weird movie that we don't see a lot.
It got the people talking.
Also, and also similar to what I was just saying with One Punch is it's like, if you just make something interesting,
they can't stop you, James.
Yeah, some people will latch onto it, and it was making a big buzz online.
It wasn't just the hiss that was pervasive through the movie either.
Yeah, it wasn't the VHS audio hiss.
Can I get a little context on this?
Okay.
I'm very curious now.
So it's a 100-minute horror movie, but
was it extremely low budget?
Yes.
Excellent.
But it's experimental in the fact that the whole movie is shot in a way that makes it look like grainy VHS.
Okay.
And it has tinny kind of hissy sound, like it's an old VHS or something recording.
Somebody like copied a VHS into another VHS?
Sort of. It has that kind of quality.
The aged quality, yeah.
Yeah. But it's all like a filter. They shot it normally and then edited it. But it's experimental in the fact that it takes place in a house and all the doors and the windows in the house disappear, and it's about two kids who wake up and they can't find their parents. But it's experimental it's just like a shot of the corner of the room, right? And then you hear the kids kind of walk in on the carpet, and then they're like, "Where's Dad?" And they're like, "I don't know." And then they walk out, and then it's like a shot of like the corner of the ceiling, and like you hear the kids turn on the television, and so the light from the television goes up on the corner of the ceiling, and then that goes on for a bit, and then you see the corner of the television. You can just see some cartoons on there, and the kids are like sitting in front of it, but you don't see the kids. You just see the back of it. It's really weird.
Yeah, and it's a demonic presence film.
And as the movie goes on, you realize that there's something in the house with them, but you don't see it.
And it's quite a nasty little film. That's how I described it to people.
And it's like messing with the kids, and it won't
I always
let them
describe
leave.
to people as it's a vicious little movie.
It is, but it's also very hard to describe. It's very hard to recommend.
Hard to recommend, yeah.
So I can definitely see Nathan's idea on it, where you either, I guess you guys got...
I completely understand why Nathan didn't like
you guys got very enthralled with it, but you could also very much be like...
It's a love it or hate it movie.
It stinks.
It's a love it or hate it movie. Callum and I, it's four of us here. Callum and I liked it. Nathan didn't like it.
I hated it.
I guarantee, Alan, if you
showed
saw
my dad.
it, you didn't like it. And so it's like a 50-50 split of in the studio.
I forced my dad to watch it. He hated it.
Of course, yeah. I understand why, and I can't even blame him.
My mum wouldn't even watch it. She saw like 10 minutes. She was like, this is dumb.
Oh, yeah, no, she couldn't handle it, yeah.
She'll see it through Midsommar.
Yeah, that's so weird.
I sorry to keep bringing that up.
No, but it's such a weird fact about her. Yeah, but I just had to mention Skinamarink because I was like, I don't know if I liked it or loved it or whatever, but I'm like, I had to mention it because it's so
you think about
unusual, and I think about it, and it did affect me. And I still maintain the look under the bed scene was genuinely terrifying.
Yeah, that's the 42 minutes, I think. Disgusting little movie. Let's move on.
All right. Should we go to a break?
We'll go to a quick break before we go on to more honorable mentions or movies that didn't quite make the list. We'll be right back after this. Yeah, we're back on the Tuesday review, talking all movies or best movies of last year.
According to James.
Yeah.
Yeah. Asterisk.
I am HO. Is that it? In my honest opinion.
Yes. So we've just finished discussing the honorable mentions, and now we're up to the part of the list where it's movies that didn't quite make the standard.
Originally, my honorable mentions was much longer, and then I was like, no, this is ridiculous. They either have to be honorable mentions or they have to be something else. And then I was like, well, they're still honorable mentions. They're not just as honorable, or then they're ones that are further away from being in my top 25. And so I didn't know what to call them, so I call them honorable mentions, runners up. So they were almost honorable mentions, but didn't quite make it. This list is stupid. I'm never doing this again. I didn't know what to do, and I
didn't quite make it. And yet we've got an almost, but not quite as well.
Exactly. That's another part. That's like a whole nother thing. So the runners up, and now that I look at the runners up list, I'm like, no, I think these should be honorable mentions. Some of these are pretty good. So this list is stupid. This is too hard. I'm never doing this again.
Here we are.
Yeah, but we're here now, so I might as well. And hopefully whoever's listening has, listened to the last week's episode and this episode and like maybe looks up some of these movies and watches them. And
check out Incantation. I'm going to check that out.
Yeah, Incantation would be good. Maybe next year I won't do by ranking. I'll just be like, do genre, and then I'll be like, mainstream movies, here's what to watch.
Yeah.
Arty
ones.
Yeah, arty indie movies, here's what to watch.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Bergman Island. What do you think it's about?
See, because you already mentioned Cronenberg, I was going to say, like, it's basically a boat shipwrecks on an island, and it's, like, got a bunch of Cronenberg monsters on it.
I want to see that movie.
I was going to
say... We have to write these down. These are good.
I was going to say, is it really called Aspergman Island? It's about people with Asperger's trying to survive.
Are you trying to get us cancelled, Nathan?
No.
Hey,
it's just that's Alan's job.
It's just wordplay.
That's Alan's job. So actually, there are two movies on here: Bergman Island, which I think technically came out in 2021, but because of COVID, was like pushed a bit.
Callum's very disappointed right now.
Yeah, because you're trying to.
It's just wordplay, man. No one's getting
ignore it. Keep going.
So Bergman Island technically came out in 2021, but I think because of COVID, it didn't get released more widely until 2022. So I left it on here. And One Fine Morning, both are French films by French director Mia Hansen-Løve, and I enjoyed both of them. They're both very good sort of relationship character dramas. They were also really emotionally affecting and well made. Hold Me Tight was another French movie. Yes, Hold Me Tight was a German movie. Huh. My brain. I can't remember.
Just blame COVID, brain. It's fine.
Yeah, I'm going to look it up, actually. Actually, Nathan, can you look it up? Hold Me Tight 2021.
Hold Me Tight. Let's see.
But the reason I mention it is because, like with Bergman Island, it stars Vicky Krieps, and it is also another quite effective kind of character drama.
Yeah.
A lot of these movies are, quite heavy, especially, we talked about in the top 25, a lot of movies. It is a French movie, okay. It's because Vicky Krieps is Austrian, I think.
Yeah.
But she speaks French in the movie. And she's in Bergman Island, which is an English language film, but Mia Hansen-Løve usually makes French language films, and her other movie...
I can see how this could get confusing.
Yeah. I've watched so many movies, and they're all
blurring
they're all blurring now, yeah.
Yeah.
Hold Me Tight is also a very sad movie, but very well done. There's also a lot of Vicky Krieps movies on this list. There's Corsage as well, which I might talk about later. Okay, I'll just go in alphabetical order for the rest of them.
Yeah.
Black Crab. This one... Oh, you want to go?
Okay, quickly.
Yes.
It's basically Moby Dick, but instead of like a white whale, they're looking for a black crab, giant one.
No, but there is a not Black Mirror. What's that show called? Love, Death and Robots.
Yeah.
There's a Love, Death and Robots episode with like giant crab monsters versus pirates. It's really good.
Damn.
Yeah, you should watch it.
I should get paid for these.
Yeah, well, that's what we were saying last week. It's like we should write them all down and make these. Black Crab is a Swedish or Norwegian film, Scandinavian-ish film. Came out on Netflix. It's like an action thriller set in a sort of undefined war, like some sort of future war. It's not really important. It's just a war is going on somewhere in the north of Europe or something. I don't know. There's no sides, or it's not explained. But what's interesting is it's like a mission movie where it's like you have to get this canister from this side of the country to this side of the country in a specific amount of time, and the quickest way to do it is across the ocean. But at this time of year, that part of the ocean is frozen over. So to avoid enemy territory or like going through on land, you have to skate. So they get all the soldiers who, before the war, were skaters or hockey players, and train them. And like your mission is to skate across in the middle of the night through to enemy territory, and deliver this package. So it's a pretty good action thriller. I thought it was quite well done.
Didn't you get like one camp guy who's like figure skating across the ice? Look at me.
Well, there was. They do mention that. One of them was like an Olympic, but I don't think it never really comes up that way. There's like a hockey player guy, but it was a cool, just action thriller. Intergalactic. This was also on Netflix. Kid Cudi wrote or co-wrote a animated movie, and it's done sort of in the style of Spider-Verse. And I don't really like Kid Cudi. I don't listen to his music. I think I've seen him in movies. I think he's okay. But I like animation. I was like, oh, that looks interesting. Maybe I'll give it a go. And I watched it and I enjoyed it. I think the animation's very good. It's basically like a love story, like a drama comedy about, a guy in New York trying to make it as an artist and falling in love with his neighbor. And it's animated, but there's not any fantasy elements or anything like that, except for some stylization.
Yeah.
And like I said, I'm not really into Kid Cudi's music, but I like the soundtrack. It's like hip hoppy, and I thought it was well done. And I was surprised by how much I liked it. So I'm like, it has to go on my list somewhere. I have to mention it somewhere. Hold Me Tight, I talked about. Glass Onion.
Yeah.
We talked also on Netflix, I guess.
Great film.
Yeah, I think I just had to put it on there, even though I didn't think it's as good as Knives Out.
Nowhere close.
I think Knives Out probably in that year would have been on my top movies list, but I think Glass Onion is just, I thought I'll mention it because I enjoyed it and it's a good movie, and
it's
fun.
It was fun. Yeah,
it's fine as a movie, but it's not. It's nowhere near as good for me as the first movie.
Yeah, no, Knives Out I think is much better. Living, another drama.
My mum likes this one.
Yeah, this is a good English drama.
She's seen it.
So what's interesting about this is when Darcy was with us and we were talking about, I think we did an extra bonus episode and we were talking about some of our favorite movies, and we started talking about Akira Kurosawa's movie Ikiru, and we were talking about how much we loved it, and I was saying how it was one of my favorite movies, and how deeply affecting it was. And then I heard about this movie Living, and it's like a drama with Bill Nye. And I was like, oh, that sounds interesting. Maybe I'll watch it one day. Then I found out it's a remake of Ikiru, but instead of 1950s post-war Japan, it's 1950s post-war London. And it's basically the same premise of a bureaucrat, a office worker, like council worker, and he in his later life, an old man now, and kind of reflecting on things and trying to do the right thing. And I was, every time they remake any, I'm against remakes generally. They have to do a lot of justifying their existence to me. So I was a bit iffy about this movie, but I think it was quite good. And I think they did a good job of adapting the changing it from an Eastern point of view to a Western point of
While
view.
still maintaining the purpose of the
Yeah.
movie. The
Well, it's
point.
it's
the
interesting
core.
because I just looked it up now, and it's based on a Russian Tolstoy novel. So it's,
Loosely, yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting that it started off in Europe and it got changed to Japan and then dramatically changed to English. So it went like, it went like exotic, well not exotic, but it went like non-foreign language European origin.
You want me to start talking about Akira Kurosawa westerns? Because we could be here all night.
Yeah, that's
Akira
true.
Kurosawa was influenced by American filmmaker John Ford.
Yeah.
Then, so he made Seven Samurai. Then Seven Samurai influenced westerns so much that they remade Seven Samurai as Magnificent Seven.
Yeah.
So American John Ford influenced Japanese Akira Kurosawa, influenced American filmmakers. Then Italian filmmaker Sergio Leone saw Akira Kurosawa's Yojimbo and remade it as Fistful of Dollars, basically giving birth to the spaghetti western.
Yeah.
I could go on all night. Anyway, Living was surprisingly, I think it was quite good, and especially considering Ikiru is such a
Classic.
amazing film and a very affecting film from one of my favorite filmmakers, Akira Kurosawa. I think Living was quite well done. The Northman, this one came out early 2022. We were kind of talking about it, but then I went to see it, and you guys,
I never ended up getting around to see it.
Yeah, we just kind of dropped
to,
off. It was good. It's Robert Eggers who did The Witch and
The Lighthouse.
The Lighthouse. I think I liked those more. I still think The Witch is his best, but Northman is really cool. Like the first half, I was like, yeah, But then the second half onwards, I was like, oh, I dig this.
But James, I heard there were historical inconsistencies.
I don't care. As long as you know Alexander Skarsgård doesn't take out an iPhone, I think it's gonna be all right. The only big problem I had, Nicole Kidman is not a good actor, and she ruins.
Is it because she can't move her face?
Yeah, well, that's part of it.
You leave that Botox alone.
Yeah, no,
it works hard, all right.
She's not good, but yeah, the movie I quite liked, especially the second half, and I think Callum might like some of the Viking mythology.
You make me sound like such a weird guy, man.
No, but
Viking mythology has a weird right-wing connotation.
Yeah. Oh, okay. No. I actually, when I say, I don't mean it.
No, but just in general.
We're very. I feel like generally left-wing kind of group. So
no, but when I said it, I meant it like actual, like Neil Gaiman wrote that book about Viking mythology, Callum's really into that fantasy side of stuff. We talked about it, a few months ago, where we were like the black magic.
I love that stuff.
That stuff. That's why I recommended Incantation and You Won't Be Alone and The Northman. All right, Alan, you have to guess this one. Nude Tuesday.
All right. This is going to be either something to do with like some retirees living at a retirement village and going crazy, or it's going to be some guy who had to go to a laundromat and somehow lost all his clothes and is now trying to make his way home.
I mean, I hear Nude Tuesday and I'm just like, isn't that what we do every Tuesday?
That's what this show should be called, Nude Tuesdays.
I mean, does this thing we're wearing clothes?
That's true. There is no photography permitted, so for all you know.
Pants off Tuesdays. Now, this is an Australian-New Zealand co-production, I believe.
This is called Bro.
And what's really interesting about it, and which is why I put it on my kind of runners-up honorable mentions, is the whole movie is in a fictional, made-up gibberish language where all the actors don't really know what each other's saying. They're given a vague outline of what to do, but the language
I think I've seen something
is made up. Yeah. And then later, after the movie's edited together, there are two different versions of the film.
Yeah.
You can watch it on Stan, I believe, and you can choose.
I know about this movie.
You can choose between the subtitles.
There's like a drama and a comedy.
Yeah. So if you choose the first set of subtitles, it has a slightly different story. Things slightly have different meaning. Jokes are different. And if you choose the second subtitles, it's a bit funnier, a bit different jokes, different words are used.
So both cuts are the same.
Both the movie's exactly the same. It's just the subtitles are different.
Interesting. Yeah, very interesting.
And I watched both of them, and I thought the second subtitles were better. I'd have to look it up. I think Ronnie Cheng had something to do with the second subtitles, but I'd have to double check. I know that's not helpful to listeners who want to choose, but if you're on Stan, I guess it's not the default subtitles. It's the other one. I don't know, but it's interesting. And I was just like, if it was just a normal movie, fun comedy. But I think that experimental side of it, of like, I would like for them to open it up to people to make their own subtitles, which I guess you could technically do by yourself. But I think that would have been a good competition or something.
Yeah.
It's true.
And you could make several different versions of this
Surprised they're
movie.
not doing that now with the Writers Guild on strike. Hey, everybody send us your scripts.
Yeah, don't worry, they got AI for that.
Yeah, that's it.
So yeah, soon. One fine morning.
Are we Scrubs? Scabs? I'm sorry, we're continuing the show during the Writers Guild strike. Are we Scabs?
Oh yeah, in solidarity, the rest of the show will be silent.
Or I'm taking over.
Uh-oh. No, that was a joke. We do actually support the WGA strike. Moving on. Something in the Dirt. We already talked about this movie. We reviewed it.
Awesome.
Benson and Moorhead's best movie in a while.
Yeah, it's a fantastic film.
For a low budget,
I think Alan will like it as well. Really
for a low budget kind of mockumentary-esque movie, it's quite creative and the humor elevates it.
When we reviewed this movie, we talked about how some artists performed best under pressure. And necessity is the mother of invention, right?
Yeah.
This is a COVID movie. They had no budget.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But my thing is they've always been a low budget filmmakers who have restrictions, and yet their creativity for their last couple of movies hasn't really been effective.
Yeah.
Whereas I think Something in the Dirt, which is even more restrictive with COVID, literally it's takes place in one room with two guys.
Yeah.
I found it much more interesting.
Really
much more
interesting
fun.
sci-fi ideas.
Yeah,
So
and it
cool.
had all the conspiracy stuff that we like talking about, and
Yeah.
also like a kind of funny wink, wink, nudge, nudge part of it as well. So yeah, I thought I'd mention that. All right, so now here's a part of the list. I'm never doing this again. Where I was just like, these technically would be in my top 25 or my honorable mentions.
So these are the honorable mentions to the runner-up honorable mentions.
These are almost above the honorable mentions, but I put them below because there were movies where I was like, I should love this, but there's something off.
For listeners, it's called the almost but not quite.
Yeah, I didn't know what to call it. So I was like, these are movies where I'm watching it and going like, this is awesome. I think I love this. I think this is a top movie of the year. I think this might be one of my favorite movies for the last few years.
But I hate it.
And then something happens or it ends and I'm like, ugh. And I just felt kind of weird about it. So technically they would be closer to my top 25, but they didn't quite make it. So they'll be in my honorable mentions. I'm like, but I kind of love them, but also I don't at all. And so I put them in there almost but not quite category, which I don't know what that means. Screw you, I'm never doing this again.
Until next year.
Until next year. Next year I think I'll do it in just separate by genre, and I'll do maybe recommendations or something.
Yeah.
And maybe I'll do a top 5. But see, I can't do a top 5 because it's like my children, I can't pick one.
Yeah.
Yes, you can. This is the real world.
Alum has to help me because he'll be ruthless.
Oh, yeah.
I'll give him a list and he'll be like, cut.
You're cut.
You're cut. Cut. Oh, hey, I already cut you.
Yeah, look at the list and it'll be Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift. Like honorable mentions.
Yeah, he'll just cross out everything and put more my worst movies. Avatar. Ugh. Notice that in all of
Transformers.
notice that out of all the 122 movies I saw in 2022 or from 2022, Avatar: Way of the Water is nowhere to be seen, and I'm very proud of that fact.
Next year, look forward to Transformers Monkey.
Oh, Rise of the Monkeys.
Yes.
All right, almost but not quite. Movies that I kind of loved, but then at the end of them just kind of were like, ugh. All Quiet on the Western Front, the new Netflix version. I'm watching it. Looks fantastic. Really great battle scenes. Really gritty war movie. But as it went on, and as it was going, I'm like, I love this. I think this is really well done. But then it ended, I'm like, you know what? They changed some stuff from the original novel. The original 1930 black and white film, which is almost 100 years old, I think was more effective. There's also a 1979 made-for-TV version, which I haven't seen, but apparently is closer to the novel as well. And I'm like, I guess the changes they made were fine, but it just left me
But were they necessary?
Yeah, and I was kind of like, I mean, the 1930 version's fine, and that's almost 100 years old. Do we really need another version?
No.
I'm like, with all the stuff that's going on with Ukraine, I'm like, maybe every 40 years they should do another version. And this version was technically very good.
Yeah.
But at the end of it, I was just like, I don't know. It left me... I was like, was that really necessary? Did they really need to make those changes? I think if it was just stuck to the novel and it still had that same production value, probably would have been a lot better.
All Quiet on the Western Front is an interesting thing because I read a memoir called Goodbye to All That by the legendary English author Robert Graves. He also did I, Claudius, if you've heard of that.
Okay, yeah.
He wrote the original novel. Anyway, so I followed it up by trying to read All Quiet on the Western Front. And that's the movie which made me realize that I actually don't like World War I fiction at all.
The book, you mean?
Yeah. I found...
That book is written in a very specific way, though, where it's just like...
And I also tried to read Generals Die in Bed, and again, I hated it. It's the very grim part of history.
What about Hemingway?
Hemingway's different because Hemingway writes his stylistic choices are they're not as dry as your typical World War One story.
I guess prose was a lot different.
And Hemingway was a force of nature. You don't like Hemingway was incapable of writing anything below standard.
Yeah.
Physically incapable of doing it.
yeah.
Even at his drunkest, he just couldn't do it. But anyway,
Well, I
not
would say
all-
his drunkest was his best.
Well,
that was when he was at his most truthful.
there's that famous saying is Ernest Hemingway said, "Write drunk, edit sober," and then someone asked Ernest Hemingway, and he's like, "No, that's stupid. I never said that. F off."
He said, "Be drunk all the time."
Yeah, actually.
No, but
Then he falls over.
but Hemingway is a different thing. We could talk about
Okay,
Hemingway
yeah, he's
all
a
night.
different beast.
But yeah, like World War One, man, so grim. People don't realize just how awful World War One actually
Oh
was.
yeah, I was talking about it
because
with
we
my-
glorify war so
I was
much, but
talking-
World War One was dirty.
Yeah, I was
like,
talking about it. It's like
physically dirty.
most of them were teenagers.
Yeah,
And they just died from like infections in like
Yeah.
muddy holes with
Also,
rats.
you have to
and-
remember,
rats chewing their feet off. It's
Yeah.
awful.
was it World War One where they
Trench foot.
invented the machine gun?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh well, it wasn't invented
Gatling
before.
gun.
It was,
Yeah.
it
It
was
was
invented
popularized,
before,
yeah.
But World War One was the first time you had like tanks and machine guns and planes like dropping bombs. And yes, it's just awful.
Because like half of the army was just horses and dudes running around
Yeah,
with
that-
bayonets and
There's a man
just
on a
people
donkey.
getting mowed down.
Yeah,
and
it's just
ruthless,
you just get up out of the trench, run, and then you just get machine gunned down, and you hope you make it to the other side. But then if you do make it to the other side, you have to kill all the
It's a
guys in
knife
the other
fights.
trench.
Yeah.
Then bayonet fight the
Ooh.
guy. Then take over that awful, muddy, disgusting, diseased trench. And then they'd counterattack, and you get pushed back to your original trench, and it would go on for that for years. And the war ended, and it's just like you hardly even moved 50 meters.
Yeah.
And I think that's the point of all Quiet on the Western Front adaptations, and this one as well, is the futility of war is just throwing young men in the meat grinder because
Yeah.
a bunch of old rich guys were like, "Oh, we want more land" or whatever.
yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's still a powerful film. It's still well made, but I thought this version, I should have loved it, and I was kind of like, I'll just stick with the 1930 version, even though it's
Yeah.
100, almost 100 years old. All right, Babylon.
Speaking about things that aren't necessary, I haven't seen this movie, but
Everyone, it got a really bad
apparently-
rap.
Yeah.
It's not that bad.
So you're saying I
this-
should watch it?
Is this
Well,
the,
this is why it's in my
Yeah.
almost but not quite
Okay.
list. It's a movie I'm watching, going like, I think I love this,
So-
but also some bad choices.
Is it Amsterdam who has a director who beat up Christian?
Yeah,
Okay,
no,
never
that,
mind.
that's the one I refuse to even
Yeah.
watch for this list.
Yeah, I was gonna say because I always confuse Babylon and Amsterdam, and I was like, "Did
No,
you
no,
watch
no,
the
no.
guy?" And I was like, "No."
No, yeah, that guy's a piece of trash. We won't even go into that.
Yeah.
But yeah, Babylon is Damien Chazelle. He's a good director.
Okay, cool.
He made this epic 3-hour movie set in like 1920s Hollywood about the excess and the kind of craziness of how they made movies back then and movie stars and going from the silent era to the sound era. And that's a movie right up my alley. I love that era. I love movies about movies, but movies about movies can often get a bit wanky, and the Academy loves them because they pat themselves on the back. And it came out and it didn't do very well. It got a bad rap, but I was interested in it and I decided to watch it. And I love long movies, as everyone who listens to this show knows. And parts of it I loved. I thought, like, Damien Chazelle is a very good director. Technically, he's very good. It's a 3-hour movie, so I want to say it's in the middle of the movie, but it's probably closer to the first hour, where it's like just this crazy long sequence of them like shooting this big epic medieval battle, like silent film. And because it's silent, like it's just guys running around with the camera, and it's like people are actually getting hurt, like horses are running over people. They're hitting each other with the fake swords, but they're hitting each other so hard that they're like knocking people out. And there's like explosions going off
glory
in the background.
days of Hollywood.
Yeah, the director's just yelling and swearing, and they're running up and down trying to wrangle everyone.
After each round of filming, like, you have to put 8 horses down.
Yeah, exactly. And they're
Straight to
like,
the glue factory with you.
one guy dies, and they're just like keep filming, and there's like running over his dead body, and it's just like, and they're like, we need more soldiers, and they're like, get a whole bunch of like homeless guys from the corner and just dress them up and give them a sword skateboard and just whatever. And
Send
it's-
a bus to Skid Row.
yeah,
What do you
exactly. And then they break all the cameras, and they're like, send the guy to get another camera, and it's like this race against time because they're losing light. The sun's going down, and so it's like the guy has to, like, the main character has to, like, run, get to the camera higher place, get the camera and get it back in time before the sun goes down. So then Brad Pitt's character, the big movie star, can come on and do his big, scene. And it's just this really epic. I'm like, oh my God, I love this movie. And then there were other parts where it was like CGI animals and kind of comedy for the sake of comedy. And I'm just like, eh. And then it gets really dark and weird. And Tobey Maguire plays this really creepy character. And it's such a long movie that it just goes through different...
Yeah.
And by the end of it, it has this wanky, like, isn't cinema great ending, but also bittersweet, but also sad. And I'm just like, I'm like, this is why I like The Fabelmans, because
Yeah,
it
The
wasn't,
Fabelmans is
it
about
wasn't
it.
just, oh, let's jerk off how great film is. It was like, let's jerk off how great Spielberg is, because he is. But also, like, it's just this movie about a guy trying to
family,
figure
yeah.
out a family and trying to figure out why he is this way. Whereas Babylon was about a bigger, more broader, less personal
Yeah.
idea.
Ode to Hollywood, yeah.
Yeah.
Still, the best film about films has to be Tropic Thunder, right?
Yeah. I'll pay that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not going to argue with you.
Suck my unit.
What do you mean, you people?
It's a more, we'll say, a more cynical look at Hollywood.
More honest look.
Well, an honest look. Yeah. Yeah, but Babylon as a movie, I loved parts of it, but overall, again, I was just kind of like a little bit iffy on it.
Yeah.
Do we have to go off air?
I don't think
No,
so.
we'll keep going.
Guess.
All right. Bones and All. This is a movie that I was, watching, and like halfway through, I'm like, I think I love this movie. I think it's one of the best of the year. I also think it might be just generally one of my favorite movies I've seen in the last few years. It's like a coming of age romantic drama, except the main character is a cannibal. And
is
she
this
goes,
Timothy Chalamet?
and she goes on a road trip with Timothy Chalamet, who's also a cannibal.
Yeah.
And it's just like she's trying to figure out why she's like this and why she has this compulsion to eat people and why she needs it. And at the same time, she's falling in love with this guy, and they come across weird people while they're driving across America. And it's like set in the late 80s, and it looks really nice. It's well acted. And it's got like, if you told me it's based on a novel,
It's Mark Rylance who's in it.
Mark Rylance is
Yeah.
in it. Yeah,
So
he's
it's having like a nice meal together, but it's actually a person they're eating. They sit down to like
no.
candlelit dinner.
It's when they're not. It's like a beastly, animalistic.
That's why it's Bones and All, so they just munch it down.
Yeah, they're not like, it's not like
Hannibal.
It's not like Hannibal.
It's not like Hannibal where they're like sitting at the table going, It's more like they have this compulsion and they have to find someone and kill them and eat them.
Very good.
And it makes you sympathize with them, which is weird.
I can understand.
Yeah, but parts of it I really, really liked, but yeah, it ended, and I was kind of like left a bit cold and iffy. I was just like, I'm not sure, but it's based on a novel. If you told me it was based on a Stephen King novel, I would believe you, because it's
Okay.
got that vibe
Okay.
of like, young girl on a journey, and she finds out there's this underground society of cannibals called Eaters, and
Oh, jeez.
they have the ability to sort of sense each other.
Okay.
But it's not like magic, like it's just her trying to find her way.
Just
Yeah.
a little bit of The Shining.
sounds
just a little
just a
bit.
sounds
tiny
more
bit.
Clive Barker to me.
Well, yeah, it's got
Yeah.
elements of that as well.
I might have to
It's-
check it out.
Yeah. But at the end of the movie, I was kind of like left a bit. So I was like, I had to mention it because I'm like, I feel like I want to put it in my top 25, but also I was just kind of like, I don't know if I really like this movie that much.
Yeah.
And this is what this almost but not quite list is all about. Where it's like, I love this, but also I don't. So
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
kind of conflicted. The next one is Bardo, which is another Netflix movie.
Is it about Bridget?
No, that's with a T. This doesn't have a T. But this is another really long movie. I think it's over 3 hours. Let me double check.
Damn.
I love long movies, but a lot of these movies... Oh, no, it's only 2 hours and 40. That's nothing. This is...
Sounds like a man that's been watching a lot of Bollywood.
Stay tuned. Keep an ear out. So This is Alejandro Inarritu's latest movie. He did The Revenant. He did Birdman. Revenant and Birdman are both movies where I'm like, yeah, I get why they're critically acclaimed and whatever, but I don't really like them that much. I don't think they're that good. Bardo is another movie where I was just like, because I was just like not that hot on his other movies, I'm like, I think it'll be good. I'll like it, but I won't love it. And I'm watching it, and it's kind of his take on a sort of Fellini 8.5-esque movie, kind of about himself, kind of about filmmaking in Mexico, kind of about the industry, kind of like fantasy elements, kind of like dream elements, like what's reality, what's dream.
It's a Netflix movie.
Yeah. Because now all the directors are going Netflix because I guess they can do what they want. I don't know. But, yeah, and I'm watching it, and parts of it I loved. And there are some sequences that are really well done. But, yeah, by the end of it, I was just kind of like, I don't know how much I like that. So, yeah, I think Inarritu is a filmmaker for me where, yeah, I get where he's coming from, but I don't always... He doesn't land for me. I think I really like Bardo, maybe even probably more than Birdman and more than Revenant. But yeah, at the end of it, I was like, there are just the things that are a bit off for me, and so it didn't quite land.
That's fair.
Funny Pages, another movie I'm watching. I think it was an A24 movie.
Yes.
Kind of low budget indie movie. Kind of. I'm not sure. I think it was shot on 16mm. It's got a deliberate grainy kind of style. Like halfway through, I'm like, I think I love this movie. This is right up my alley. It's about a like high school student who wants to drop out and like just start writing underground comics, like rude, nude, kind of weirdo comics.
Alms kind of deal.
Yeah, and he tries to go out on his own and make it on his own, and just he meets a whole bunch of sweaty creeps and weirdos, and it gets kind of crazy. And I'm like watching it, I'm like, I think I love this movie. It's right up my alley. It's super weird. It's well made. It's funny, and it gets kind of dark and weird, and it's sweaty and sleazy. But then it ends. I was kind of like, I don't know. It didn't... It
fizzled out, the energy.
Yeah, it fizzled out. Exactly. Yeah. Yes, fizzled out. That's a perfect... And it's only like an hour and 20-something minutes, which is not long. And I'm like, you know, the movie didn't necessarily have to have a grand finale or a big statement, but the energy fizzled out.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And Nightmare Alley, which... You know, we've talked about Guillermo del Toro on the show before. He's one of my favorite filmmakers.
Second best Del Toro.
Yeah. I watch, you know, every time he has a movie out, I go straight to see it. I'm like in love. But Nightmare Alley, again, I'm watching it going like, I think I love this movie. And then it ended, I was kind of like, you can do better.
Yeah. I've heard that before.
There's just something off about it.
I did not like this movie. I watched I watched about half of it, and I'm just like, I was on streaming or something.
Yeah,
I watched about half of it, and I'm just like, I do not like this movie.
It's weird because
I bought it on 4K,
it's like it's got the cast.
Yeah,
it's got a decent idea behind it.
It looks quite stunning, mostly, but yeah, it's kind of boring.
Yeah, it is boring. I got about halfway through, and I'm just like, yeah, it's got the cast. It looks nice, but.
Yeah. And it's so weird because I'm such a Guillermo del Toro fan, and yeah, it's just I don't know what it was. I think it's also, this is another case of it's based on a novel. So there was a novel that was made into a movie in 1947, and obviously because of restrictions in 1947, you weren't allowed to show certain things, you weren't allowed to say certain things. So it's a sort of watered down, censored version. Still a good movie. Guillermo del Toro wanted to make a version that's truer to the novel. So there's like, you know, it's more graphic, you know, it's more raw, more violent. And it's long, it's much longer. It's like 2.5 hours. The original was like 90 minutes or 100 minutes maybe. And like, obviously, you know, technically it's well done. It looks really nice. The cast is good. But yeah, I don't know. It felt like it's dragged a bit, and I was kind of like, you know, sometimes the older movies, they got to the point quicker. And even though I love long movies, you still have to
You have to earn it.
You have to earn it. You have to justify every minute, because every minute over 90 minutes, like, people are gonna start getting bored or angry.
Diminishing returns.
Yeah. And as someone who loves long movies, they still have to earn that extra runtime. And I was kind of like, this probably could be shorter. I also think Bradley Cooper, even though he's very good in the movie, I think he's too old to play this character. Even though he does a very good job. And also, there's a couple of uses of CGI which I really disliked. And Guillermo del Toro has always been one of those great filmmakers who mixes CGI and practical perfectly. And I think that movie was just like, there are not egregious, not over the top, not too many, but there are a couple like bits of violence where it's like you can see it's a practical effect, really gory, and then I guess he wants to take it a bit extra, so he adds like a digital twist to it. And I was like, oh, now it just looks fake and stupid and cartoonish. And that disappointed me. And that didn't ruin the rest of the film, but yeah, that's added to the... And it's such a shame because I'm such a big Del Toro fan.
Not big enough, James. Obviously.
Well, I guess so, because his Pinocchio, his animated Pinocchio is not in my honorable mentions, but I did enjoy that as well. That was quite good. But yeah, even that movie, I was just like, I wasn't 100% on it.
Yeah, he needs Duncan Jones. That's what is it. Duncan Jones?
Doug Jones.
Doug Jones. Yeah, he needs Doug Jones to be playing his Pinocchio.
To play another fish man. Although Shape of Water, so even Shape of Water like wasn't my favorite Del Toro. So I think his last three films have sort of been mid
once you hit that Pan's Labyrinth tier.
Oh, he kind of peaked, yeah.
Yeah, I was saying it's hard to get there again.
Also,
is the Fishman the same Fishman from Hellboy?
Hellboy? No,
it's the same actor,
different Fishman.
Same actor, different Fishman.
Oh, I'm sorry, you get the same guy playing them Fishman.
Yeah, they have similar designs. Yeah, it's Del Toro doing. Yeah, it's Fishman again. Yeah, but I'm also like a film nerd hipster who loves Crimson Peak, which I don't think anyone else saw.
I've seen it.
We went to the movies to see it.
Yeah, we've seen
Did
it.
you? Did we go together?
Yeah, maybe. I mean,
I don't think we went together,
No.
but we saw it.
You saw it, yeah.
Very erotic.
I love that movie. It's like a gothic
pretty good.
romance. Ghost.
I think our mum
story.
saw that and she really liked it. I'm like,
It's
yeah,
a good
figures.
movie. Yeah.
I like the aesthetics of that movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't get too many gothic films anymore. Like
No.
not actual gothic movies.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
But so that's my kind of honorable mentions / near misses, movies that probably could be in my top 25 but I wasn't sure about, movies that were really good up until the ending, or movies that I really liked but then upon reflection was just kind of cold towards, movies that didn't hit me in the chest as much as like my top 25 did. There are some movies on my honorable mentions that probably are better than some of my top 25 or that I liked more, but it didn't hit me in the same way, and it didn't surprise me as much. Or I'm never doing this again. This list was too hard.
We'll have an augmented list next year.
Right? Yeah, I'll have the Alum.
The Alum approved list.
The Alum.
I like the genre
down.
idea.
Yeah,
that's a fun way to do it.
Yeah, I think that's well. That's what after. So because I had my top 25, then I had roughly there's about maybe 30 films in my honorable mentions. There's still what that leaves like 80, 70 films left over that I haven't talked about.
Yeah.
So what I did for the rest of the films is to not show any preference. I just kind of tried to group them in loose genre and in alphabetical order. And so then that way it's just like they're still there, but nothing's getting any real preferential treatment. Although as I went through the list, I started like putting dots next to things and highlighting things. I'm like, oh, maybe we should talk about this. Maybe we should talk about this. But I'll leave it up to the boys now if they want to go through the list and highlight anything.
I've circled a few.
While they're going through the list, I'm going to get this on board because I'm going to sue somebody when they make the movie. All right, so we've got basically a rescue boat that's traveling through a storm that's trying to find a lost boat that went out to sea on a hunting expedition to this newfound island.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And they end up crash landing at this island.
Mm-hmm.
And there's about a group of maybe 15 of them, people with a couple of guns, some explorers, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it's supposed to be a rescue mission for this other boat of rich people that went on a hunting trip.
Yeah.
Anyway, so they're setting up on the island, trying to get their bearings, trying to, get themselves rescued. And they feel like they've been watched. right?
Mhm.
They can't quite figure out. They also need to find out where the other boat possibly crashed, if it crashed, because
Yeah.
they didn't. Those people never came back. So eventually, you realize that this island has a bunch of Cronenberg creatures, and so,
Okay.
right, and obviously these people are rightly afraid.
Island of Dr. Moreau.
Yeah, so they like killing the creatures if they see them, killing one or two. One of the two of them gets taken away. You know, they eventually find the original boat that the original group came in on, and you realize that these people came in and started shooting the Cronenberg creatures too.
What
and so
movie
the
is this?
Cronenberg creatures fought back.
Bergman Island.
This is my own Bergman Island.
This is
right?
his. Yeah, this is
Right.
his.
And you
idea.
realize over time, like the last couple people that are left because they're fighting back and forth, is those creatures just want to be left alone. Right?
Right.
These people came onto their island, started
Oh,
shooting
okay.
them.
Yeah.
So the last couple of them end up getting taken away and get Cronenberged.
Hmm.
I guess you could say there's like a well or something in the center of the island.
Have very Lovecraft.
And then the last that boat that obviously crashes, that's also got its own rescue beacon that's flashing
Hmm.
at the end of the movie. So you know there's going to be a
Oh, so there's
constant
a sec-
cycle
Yeah.
of people coming in to rescue and
Cronenberg.
stuff. That's why if somebody does that kind of movie, We're suing.
trademark 20 Alam Singh 2023.
that's a movie you could write. You make a movie, just send us a check.
Patent pending. Patent pending.
Send us
Send
a
us a
check.
check.
You know,
Yeah, send us a check.
that's all we want. I'm sure people will enjoy the movie, except for
Cronenberg
those that
Island.
got spoiled for it.
Island of Cronenbergs.
Yes,
Cronenberg Island.
yeah.
because the monsters just want to be left alone.
You know, also
Yeah,
Like all
maybe
monsters.
humans are the real
Yes.
monsters.
maybe the leader of the Bergman creatures could be Cronenberg, like just David Cronenberg.
Oh yeah.
He's like, these are my children.
yeah.
this is just Island of Dr. Moreau.
Look, we'll go to a very quick break, and then we'll be back with more films that maybe James didn't like so much right after this.
Mm.
You're back on the Tuesday Review. Going through our list now of movies that James saw in 2022. It's a big old list, so I've highlighted
Too many,
a few.
Yeah, it was too many for me to order in it, so I just put them on. there.
There's a lot of movies. A lot of them we probably either talked about or
Some of them, yeah.
deliberately ignored. But there's a few here I want James's opinion on that aren't notable. The first one, I'm just going in the list that's written down here.
Yeah.
So drama, action. There's just a few. Don't Worry, Darling is one I've been interested in.
Oh, yeah.
But also,
So
I've heard it's
Harry
not
Styles,
good.
It's
yeah.
not. Yeah. So
I like that
Now,
90s, 50s
Yeah.
kind
Did
of
this
weird.
did this movie precede his affair with Olivia Wilde, or did that come after the movie?
I think after,
Okay, interesting. Continue, please.
because she got divorced while she was promoting. them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't care. I don't care
Anyway,
about
it's
later
not
on,
important.
all that drama.
That's
Did
not-
Harry Styles spit on Chris
that's what I was
Pine?
gonna
I don't
say.
care.
That's what I was gonna say. Later on the show,
I
we'll
don't
get to did
care.
Harry Styles spit on Chris
Yeah,
Pine.
I don't care. I'm just here for the movie. I don't care. But
Very good.
so I remember when the trailer came out. So Olivia Wilde
Hey,
made
he's Star Fox and MCU. Okay, I'm very excited.
just because you're in love with his Star Fox character, which we won't see in the MCU for another 5 years, which no one knows who he is. What we were talking about? Don't Worry, Darling. So we saw the trailer when it came out, and Olivia Wilde had directed Booksmart, which I thought was a good movie. And she was directing this movie, which looked very Jordan Peele-esque. Not that Jordan Peele has a monopoly on that kind of psychological horror
vibe.
thriller,
He just does
But-
it very well.
but he does it very well, and he popularized it, I guess, in the last few years. So it had that vibe to it, but it was like about like young women living in an idyllic 1950s sort of housing estate in the desert, and their husbands go off during the day to work on some important government project that's not known. And then Florence Pugh, who's the main
No spoilers,
character.
please.
No.
Yeah.
She discovers
Yeah.
something sinister is going on, and we saw the trailer and go, oh, that looks interesting, but we just didn't have time to see it. There was a lot of other stuff going on, and yeah, it came out and it kind of flopped. People didn't like it, but it looked interesting enough, and it's 2022 movie. I was like, I'll give it a go. Visually, pretty good. The 1950s kind of aesthetic, 1960s. The movie looks nice. There's a lot of like old houses and cars and
White
costumes.
picket fences.
Exactly, and
A bus that has a coloured sign, we have to set the
All
back.
right, let's behave.
what? It's close to a Jordan Peele movie, but yeah, it's not about that part of the Jordan Peele.
Because you know that's
movie.
part of the 1950s.
Yeah, but it's not. That part of it's not in it because it's like it's not.
It's looking at the white people.
Yeah,
It's not
this
looking
is-
at the colours.
This is about the ladies,
Yes.
not regardless of their
So you're saying there's
race.
colored people too?
Yes.
Oh, very good. Okay.
Yeah, there's like one of the ladies is black, one of the ladies is Asian.
So it's totally unrealistic.
This is the movie. I'm not going to spoil it. Anyway,
Yeah.
so it's set in this idyllic 1950s, sort of 1960s town. The costumes, the sets,
Well,
the
so
houses, the
that's-
cars looks really nice.
That's sort of what makes me.
It's
interested
well
in the
shot.
movie. It's like production looks nice.
yeah, it's well
Yeah.
shot. Florence Pugh, I think I talked about it last week. Did I? Anyway, she can't do no wrong. She's great.
No,
Shout out to Midsummer again. Callum brought it up before.
that's right.
Great movie. So she's great. Everyone else in the movie is kind of meh. Harry Styles isn't very good. None of the other actors do a particularly good job. It's also not well written, so it's not entirely their fault. Also, the story is dumb and the ending is stupid, and it's
So I
not
think
very
it's
good.
Maybe you should worry.
I'd say, yeah, you should worry, darling, because I'd say it's not really worth watching unless you have all the time in the world and you
Yeah.
want to chuck something on. Visually, not bad. But story-wise, the action, the development of the mystery, the ending,
Yeah.
bleh.
Fair.
Yeah. I rolled my eyes.
Yeah.
Elvis.
Okay, so I do not really like Baz Luhrmann movies.
Yes, that's why I was curious that you
Yeah.
watched it to be a movie.
I appreciate parts of his movies, but overall, I just find him loud and his movies loud and obnoxious.
he
Yeah.
is a bit wanky.
And especially in like Great Gatsby and with Elvis, just too much CGI crap.
It's Elvis. Why
And-
do you need CGI?
Cause Baz Luhrmann, whoa, look at me, camera swirling around, blah, 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 blah. It looks awful. Anyway, yeah, I generally don't really like him, his movies, and I had no real intention of seeing the new Elvis movie. But my mum, she went to see it, she loved it, so I bought it for her on 4K, so she could rewatch it because she really liked it. And I was like, well, now I have the 4K technically. I mean,
Yeah.
it's hers. And I was like, well, it's a 2022 movie. Everyone's talking about it. It's been nominated for Oscars.
Grit your teeth,
I thought-
put it on.
I thought Austin Butler was going to win because it's that kind of performance that he was going to win the Best Actor Oscar. So I was like, I'll watch it. It gave me a headache. The first hour is insufferable.
Why?
It's just non-stop like modern remixes of old songs. Just the camera is like swirling around. There's like CGI stuff. There's just like zooming in and out and and it moves so quickly from Elvis's childhood all the way till his comeback special. It's crammed into an hour.
Does he get fat in the movie?
At the
Does it have
very
a
end.
fried peanut butter and banana sandwich?
Does he
No,
die
which
on the
is a
toilet?
negative. No, which is another negative. So that would have gone up. The points would have gone
I
up.
thought
If
the
that
whole
happened.
movie's the point that he dies. Like, isn't that?
He died, but it's like off screen.
Oh.
It's because they're being respectful. But yeah, the first
How's it been when you already make the movie about the guy and, I don't think so.
the movie and the guy.
It was like, being respectful, just leave it alone.
But the first hour is so much of Elvis's life and career crammed into such a
Yeah.
short runtime with
feel like
just
if you're gonna-
non-stop Baz Luhrmann excess.
If you're not going to make it about a very specific point in Elvis's life, it should have been
Biopics,
Don't do it unless it's at a very specific.
in
kind of-
general,
yeah.
in general, biopics are not usually very good, and one of the reasons is because you have to go through a whole person's life and career in 2 or
Either
so hours.
do it on a very specific event,
Yeah, so the
or
best
do it as like a series.
usually the best biopics are about like one event in a person's
Career
life.
or life.
I
yeah.
think this movie probably they should have just picked the comeback special or picked something specific and done it around that. But they tried to cram in his entire life in like it is a long movie. It's like 3 hours, but the first hour is that whole like from his childhood to the comeback special. So just a really long time of his life and career, and just non-stop music and camera swirling and Baz Luhrmann excess and colors and lights and blah 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 blah. It gave me a headache. Then the movie slows down for like 5 minutes, and they start going into the behind the scenes of the comeback special, and I'm like, okay, now I can breathe. This movie is finally going into some character stuff, and it's going into some relationship stuff with him and his wife, and I'm like, okay. That lasts about 5 minutes, and then the movie ramps up again. And it's just like, blah, 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 Baz Luhrmann yelling in my face. And it goes on for another 2 hours. And at the end of it, I was just like...
And of course, they probably
me
didn't
now.
touch on any of the, we'll say, more troubling aspects of his life. Or is it just whitewash?
Just lightly, yeah.
Just lightly
Not really,
painted,
it's just very
glossed
lightly,
over.
yeah. When they do get to his Vegas show, there is an extended scene of just the perform, like Austin Butler as Elvis just performing on stage in Vegas in the white suit. That bit was very well done. But yeah, everything before and after that is just it's too much going on, too quick. Also, the biggest detraction of the movie. Also, I think it was like filmed in Queensland or somewhere, so it's like a lot of the times you can sort of tell. It doesn't look cheap, but it doesn't look good.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway, the biggest attraction of the movie, which is why I hated it, is that they made the bizarre, baffling decision to tell the movie from Tom Hanks's character's point of view, Colonel Tom Parker, who was Elvis's manager. And in real life, Colonel Tom Parker was a like larger than life character. He was a weird guy with a, sordid past. But why make a movie about Elvis called Elvis, where it's told by an unreliable narrator?
Because Tom Hanks.
Yeah, and also the worst, even worse than the fact that they decide to tell it from this point of view, whereas like voiceover and unreliable narrator and showing things from his point of view, which was a bad decision. But even worse than that is Tom Hanks's performance is bizarre. He does this weird semi-German, semi-weird accent. And Colonel Tom Parker was Dutch, I believe, but he spoke with an American accent. He was pretending to be American. You can find recordings of Colonel Tom Parker. He didn't sound like this weird German / Swedish. I don't know what the hell Tom Hanks was doing. Also, on top of that, the makeup they used to make Tom Hanks look like a bit fatter and like look more like Tom Parker, he looks like the Penguin from the Batman. And the way he smokes his cigar is between his like doing the Spock,
Vulcan.
doing the Vulcan salute.
That's weird.
He smokes it. I'm like, he looks like the Penguin. This is bizarre. And the whole movie's from his point of view. And voiceover with this stupid accent. And meanwhile, then you like zoom in with like, Elvis doing performance and the camera zoom in his colors and lights and CGI crap and modern hip hop remix of Elvis. And I'm just like, Baz Luhrmann,
Stop. Yeah.
I don't know what meds you're on or off, but you need to get off or on them. I don't know.
Yeah.
But Austin Butler he did do a good job as Elvis. He gave a good performance.
Yeah.
I think the problem with Austin Butler is he's about 30-ish years old, but he has a very youthful look. And he plays Elvis from kind of late teens until his death. And so later in the movie, when he's a bit older, it's not as convincing because Austin Butler, while a good performance while he does look good...
Did they give him any aging makeup?
They did as they went on, but he just has a youthful look to him. It's just like... he can't help it. That's how he looks. And even when they make him up, it looks strange because he's a very youthful looking, just the eyes, I think if they just picked, if they just picked the comeback special and just did it about that, or if they picked if they did a young Elvis movie.
Yeah, with biopics, you have to go a bit smaller scope.
Yeah, they should have just picked one and set on that. But in saying that, it made $1 bajillion. All the mums loved it. All the Elvis fans loved it.
Yeah.
So, who cares?
It's not for us to say here.
I will say, though, John Carpenter made a straight-to TV movie in 1979, so a couple of years after Elvis's death, with Kurt Russell as Elvis. It's like a 3-hour TV movie.
Apparently, I've heard that's good.
It's very good. For a low-budget TV movie that came out in the late 70s, it's much, much better than this new big-budget Hollywood Oscar bait Baz Luhrmann version. So if you can find it, the John Carpenter late 70s version with Kurt Russell is much better.
And what's that called?
Elvis.
Oh, okay, cool.
Excellent. The Infernal Machine.
Okay, so this is an interesting movie. I think Callum might like
It's
this.
about a book.
Yeah, so it's like a low budget indie movie. Guy Pearce plays an author who wrote a book. I'm trying to think. He wrote a book in the late 70s or early 80s. I'm trying to. The movie's not set in present day. It's like slightly.
That's fine.
Let's say in the 80s. He wrote a book in the 80s that was like a bestseller and it was a controversial bestseller.
Yep.
And a young man like went on top of a roof, shot a whole bunch of people and blamed it on the book. And so Guy Pearce's character never wrote a book ever again, and he became a recluse, and he moved to the desert in California or whatever, and he just doesn't want to write anything anymore, and he wants to be left alone. And it's about, he starts getting these weird letters from a like super mega fan
Awesome.
who's like, please help me out with my book. You know, here's an excerpt of my book. Please read it.
This
And
sounds Stephen King-like.
it's very Stephen King-esque, yeah. And he keeps bugging him, and Guy Pearce is like, just leave me alone. I don't write anymore. I don't have a new novel, whatever. And it
then
kind
he
of
has a car
escalates.
accident in the desert, and somebody rescues him, and next thing you know, he's in their house, and they're a crazed nurse.
And there's a hobbling scene.
Sorry.
It's got elements of that isolation, and then there's a mystery of like, you know, what's going on, what's the connection between his writing and the conspiracy that's going on. It's kind of low budget, so it's not super well made. You know, it's not.
Yeah, I get
The
you.
filmmaking isn't anything to write home about. Guy Pearce is good. The central mystery starts off interesting, but as it goes along, it starts to become kind of boring. And then it ends up kind of like a cheapo version of David Fincher's The Game. That's not a spoiler because there is a twist, but it's not the same spoiler. It's not the same twist as The Game. It's just a similar sort of reveal where I'm like, oh, is that it? And it's kind of cheesy. And I was also, I liked it and it's interesting. And I think Callum should watch it just so he gets that idea of like the elements of it that are good.
Yeah.
But it didn't stick the landing, and visually, you know, filmmaking wise, it was pretty standard. I think if someone like David Fincher directed it, and it had maybe a bit more money, it could have been really interesting, even with the same kind of dodgy script. But yeah, it's an interesting movie. I wouldn't say it's not worth watching, but be warned, it's not.
Yeah, it's
great.
not amazing.
Yeah.
The Outfit. This is
This is another good movie. Yeah, I think it's on stream. I think I watched it on Disney Plus, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember. I think it's on streaming now. It's on one of the services. Mark Rylance again, great actor. This is an interesting movie because it's got kind of like, what was that movie we saw? See How They Run. That was another 20. Is that on this list? I think that's on this list.
That was
somewhere.
a pretty good film.
That was okay. That didn't really quite get there for me. But it's set in that kind of, it's like the 1950s but fun. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's not grimy. It's just like, it's the kind of more heightened, colourful crime caper version of London in the it's all English actors, but it's set in Chicago, which is why they should have just set in London. It would have been fine.
Yeah.
London gangsters, that would have been fine. Mark Rylance is a English tailor. Not a tailor. He keeps saying in the movie, he's not a tailor, he's a cutter. A tailor is someone who just like brings in your pants a bit. A cutter is someone who like cuts the fabric and makes you a bespoke suit from scratch. So he has this men's store. It's like the 1950s Chicago. He has this men's store. He makes custom suits. He takes pride in his work. He's very particular. But as part of his kind of leave me alone thing, he has a deal with the mob where they use his place to drop off cash and stuff. And then the movie's basically about one night, one of the mob guys comes in with a bullet in his gut. It's like, you need to sew me back up. And then it's like this cat and mouse, you know, who shot who betrayed who's on the phone, you know, who sold me out. And all the sides are playing against each other. It's a good movie. I liked it, but the ending is meh.
Yeah.
I think if it ended like 5 minutes earlier, I would have liked it more. But it keeps going, and I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
But for a movie set basically entirely in the tailor shop, and it's basically like Mark Rylance kind of trying to play people off each other and the gangsters pointing fingers at each other. It's fun. It's a fun little movie.
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right. 3,000 Years of Longing is another one I was kind of interested in seeing.
Yeah,
but I never really.
That's an interesting one because George Miller's last movie was Mad Max Fury Road, which came out in 2015, I think.
So a while ago.
And, you know, that movie was a huge kind of... Everyone went crazy for that. I personally didn't love it because I'm a kind of nerd about the original Mad Max 1 and 2. But Fury Road is very impressive, especially for a guy in his 70s, director in his 70s.
He's no Spielberg.
No, but yeah. So he hasn't made a film in a while, and he made this movie, and it looked really interesting. It's about a kind of lonely, bookish woman who Tilda Swinton's character who finds a genie's lamp, and she rubs it, and a genie comes out and is like, "I can grant you 3 wishes." And it's basically a dialogue movie about her trying not to waste her wishes because she's like, I know there's a catch. I know if I make a wish, it's not going to come true in the same way as I meant it. There's always a monkey's paw. And she's like, I'm not stupid. I'm not going to, you know. So the movie's kind of about that back and forth with her and the genie of like, what can I wish for where you're not going to screw me over?
Can I read the terms and conditions, please?
Yeah, she's basically yes.
Did she wish for a competent lawyer? And be like, all right, you read the terms and conditions. And next couple wishes, we're going to make him solid.
Yeah. So basically the movie's just about her talking to the genie, and as the movie goes on, the genie tells her the story of how he was trapped in the lamp for 3,000 years. And so it's basically flashes back to like ancient times and there's like fantasy. And those parts are really good. Some of the CGI is bad, some of the CGI is good.
Quick question, does the genie look like Will Smith?
The genie's Idris Elba.
It's Idris Elba, so on one hand he does, but also he doesn't because don't be racist, Alan.
No, I didn't start this.
Alan didn't know the genie was Idris Elba.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, because ideally with me, because I like the old, we'll call it Middle Eastern pre-Islam history.
Well,
where
Idris
people
Elba
believed in like jinns and stuff.
Because Idris Elba's a good actor. He does do like a Middle Eastern accent, kind of vague accent. Also, the genie speaks like an ancient language until he learns English.
That's awesome.
So that's cool too. And the genie looks cool. He's got these little pointy ears and he's got... Yeah, so visually, parts of it, really good. Other parts of it, not so good. I feel like that comes up a lot on this show where we watch a movie and go, that part looked awesome. That part looked like it was rendered on a PS2. What's going on?
Looking at you, Escape Plan.
No, that whole movie...
Escape Plan 1's amazing.
Escape Plan 2.
Escape Plan 2 was clearly a movie made for the Chinese audience that we just decided to step into. Looking at you,
Shang-Chi.
Yeah, but I think there are other movies. There are other movies, better examples where
Definitely,
it's like,
of course.
Visually, this scene's amazing. Visually, that's next scene awful.
Yeah,
I think this movie has a bit of that problem. I think also, have you guys ever seen the movie called The Fall?
I've seen it. It's everywhere at the moment on streaming.
No, not the one where they're on the tower. That's Fall. It's The Fall. It came out in like 2006. It's Tarsum Singh. He's an Indian director. He made... I love it. It's one of my favorite movies. It's a movie like set in 1920s, and a little girl breaks her arm, and a Hollywood stuntman, silent movie stuntman, breaks his leg, and they put in a hospital bed side by side, and he tells her a story, and then the story plays out in her imagination, and it's all very colourful, and the production and costume design is really extravagant and beautiful. And that's the kind of movie that they don't really make anymore. Even though that movie wasn't super big budget, this movie, George Miller, you know, I don't think he had a very big budget. And I think they had COVID problems. But yeah, visually, this movie's not as strong as something like that. And it's not as strong as a lot of those older fantasy movies. You know, we always talk about those 80s fantasy movies.
Yeah.
There are some elements of 3,000 Years that are really well done. But yeah, visually, it's just movies that don't stack up. as much as they used to, and a lot of that's to do with green screen CGI. But I think just budget and time they didn't really have a lot of. And also the end of the movie it runs out of steam pretty quickly, and the end of the movie is kind of dumb. But again, kind of like with that other movie, it's like worth watching, but not great.
Mm.
There are elements of it that I liked, but overall,
Look,
iffy.
yeah. The last movie I want to bring up, I know we're running out of time here, is Jackass Forever.
Yeah.
What did you think about it?
Awards for male body positivity.
I mean, yeah. They've always been good at that.
Nude Tuesday, they get nude at the end. That's why it's
Yeah.
called Nude Tuesday, because the end of the movie is like nudist Tuesdays, and everyone has to get naked. I feel like Alan was hinting at that, and then we didn't talk about that aspect of it. We just talk about the language aspect. Yeah, Jackass Forever. I mean, we're all dudes of a certain age. We grew up watching this dumb stuff.
Yeah.
The movies came out basically 1, 2, 3, and now 4. Basically, as we grew up
Yeah.
over the last 20 years, and this is like the 20th anniversary movie, I guess. So yeah, I mean, I think it was good. Maybe I don't remember the first 3 well enough to say it's better or as good as the other ones. But at no point was I watching it going like, oh, this is crap. They're too old, whatever. I liked, there was some new guy there.
Is this the one with the T-Rex at the start in the city? Or is that
Yeah,
a
yeah,
different
yeah.
Jackass?
Yes. The Godzilla
Yeah.
Chris
Yeah,
Pontius.
yeah.
Where they had the rope around their
Yeah, ding dong.
ding dong, and then they had to throw the brick. And one of the ropes was too short.
Yeah.
Oh, no,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
a different one. Yeah,
Was it?
yeah, that's a different one.
No, that's this
Is that
film.
this one?
That's
Yeah,
this
this
film.
one. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I don't remember.
And it, like,
Someone gets really hurt.
it ends
Yeah.
up tightening around his
Yeah,
I
yeah.
thought that
It's
was
the
an
one
older.
that-
I thought
No,
that was an
it
older
happened
one.
in this one.
I can't
It's the
remember.
guy. One of them has one testicle and
Oh, yeah.
and it
yeah.
gets caught
Yeah,
and it doesn't
yeah,
fall off.
Stop talking about it.
Yeah,
Jesus
alright,
Christ.
let's move on. No, but yeah, it was funny.
like I said, if you watch the other ones and you enjoyed them, like
Yeah, if you
You
liked
enjoyed
the
it,
other.
yeah.
When did Jackass 3D come out? 10 years ago?
Oh, and close. It's been a long.
It's been a long time. So I think what's good about it is that they didn't churn out
Yeah.
it too quickly. And also, I think, like, if this is like, because Johnny Knoxville, those guys aren't getting any younger.
No.
And so if they do, like, if they don't do any more, or if they do pass it on to the other younger guys, I think that's fine.
I think it's fine.
This isn't something I'd watch a whole bunch of. Like, I don't think I could sit down and watch the TV show like I used to.
Nah.
But, like, having a 90-minute movie every few years, it's a bit of fun. Stupid fun.
Also, I like
And they
the
do it to
fact-
themselves. They don't do it to other people. I don't like those prank shows where they
where they harass
hurt,
other people.
hurt
They're like,
other people.
it's just a prank, bro. Sign the
just a
release.
prank, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do also like the fact that you got the extended versions on streaming. I think Netflix has them. I think 4.5.
I don't know if they're on streaming, but with Jackass, they always do the extra.
I think 4.5 is on
0.5
Netflix in
version.
Australia at the moment.
Okay.
And it
Yeah, I
has
haven't
like
seen that.
all different or
yeah,
extended
the more stunts.
pranks
Yeah.
and stunts. That's all I wanted to.
All right,
talk
what do you
about.
got for Lightyear? I didn't watch the movie because
Okay.
I'm like, so you couldn't get either Patrick Warburton
Yeah.
or Tim Allen
No.
to do the why?
Alan, you're 100% right. So Pixar's amazing. They do great work. However, this movie is confusing and kind of baffling because they made a Buzz Lightyear movie, which is the origin of Buzz Lightyear, but instead of making a spin-off of the Toy Story Buzz Lightyear, they decided to market it as, well, this is the movie that Andy would have seen. So then he went and bought the toy. And I'm like, no, it's not. That movie is already called Buzz Lightyear of Star Command.
Yes.
It already came out. There was a TV show and a movie. And a video game, and it was awesome. And this version, Lightyear, while the animation is very nice, it's the kind of grounded, realistic version where Chris Pine?
Chris Evans.
Chris Evans, one of the Chris's. Chris Evans plays Lightyear, and he's a more serious version. And the movie, it's still a kid's movie. It still has comedy, but it's mostly like a serious science fiction movie about a real life astronaut who crash lands with his, crew and the people on the ship. And basically the whole movie is set on this one planet and they're trying to get off. And it's basically like an episode of Star Trek or something where they're trying to figure out how to get the engines working, how to get the light speed working. And Buzz Lightyear is basically the test pilot for these missions. And I'm like, if this was our original sci-fi movie, not called Lightyear, it'd be pretty interesting. But the fact that it's called Lightyear and it's supposed to be set
in Toy Story,
and it's not set in the Toy Story universe, and this is definitely not a movie that Andy would have seen to go and buy it, go out and buy the toy. This is not connected to the Toy Story movies at all. It's such as a bizarre choice, and yeah, I think that's what lets it down the most. Is technically still Pixar, great animation, cool action scenes, cool sci-fi ideas. But the fact that they chose to do a Buzz Lightyear movie that sucks all the life and fun and action adventure and comedy and life out of the Buzz Lightyear and Star Command characters and turns it into sort of a more straightforward sci-fi drama, action drama, so bizarre, so weird. And what they do to Zurg, dumb. So yeah, I don't really understand why they chose to do this. They should have made an original sci-fi movie, or they should have made a fun Buzz Lightyear of Star Command-esque.
Big old chin.
Yeah,
you know,
swirl on each chin.
Swirl, the nice little arrogant kind of a character.
Yeah,
who's kept grounded by people around him.
Yeah, I mean, Buzz Lightyear of Star Command, that old animation.
Love that. Yeah,
apparently, people at Pixar didn't like it, but I'm like, suck it up. That was our Buzz Lightyear movie. So either do something like that or do an original sci-fi movie. Don't play this weird in between and try to market it like, no.
We're running out of time. Bodies, go.
Okay, Bodies. I watched this during Spooktober last year, but didn't get a chance to talk about it on the show when we were talking about horror movies, because technically it's not really a horror movie. It's kind of a slasher thriller, kind of a comedy, more of a comedy. Another A24 movie, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Good movie, good cast, funny. Kind of a satire about like Gen Z and younger millennials kind of holing up in a house during a hurricane. They're like rich parents. They got this big mansion and it's a hurricane. They're like, yeah, we're going to have a hurricane party, do drugs and
as you do.
Yeah. And then one of them's like, let's play Bodies, which I think is also called Murder in the Dark, where it's like a party game where you turn off the lights. Someone's the murderer. You tap someone on the shoulder. They pretend to die and then turn on the lights. Oh, you have to guess who the murderer was. But in the movie, the killings become real, and they're all running. It's about them all running around their house, not knowing what to do.
Yeah.
And it's this kind of satire of how, Gen Zers and the TikTok kind of generation, and how, yeah.
I hate it already.
No, it was quite well done.
Okay.
Because it's deliberately a satire about that stuff.
Because all I'm seeing is guys with broccoli cuts running around a house.
I don't think there's any broccoli cuts, but there is a lot of that.
No cap.
Yeah, I'm surprised they weren't like Murder in the Dark is obviously a game rife for sexual abuse, so we're not going to play this game because it's all about Gen Z. But
well, I don't know if that specifically comes up, but there's elements of that where it's like, oh, I feel really triggered right now.
Yeah.
But it's well done where I never rolled my eyes.
Okay.
Because the movie is self-aware enough and the cast is good enough at performing it.
Yeah. Mona Lisa and the Blood Moon.
This is another movie that I think Callum would like because it is by the director of Girl Walks Home Alone at Night.
Oh, really? So
Yes.
that's an interesting film because I tell people to watch it. They never listen to me.
Yeah.
And I'll be at work. I'll tell someone about it at work. And I'm just sit down there thinking, I still think about that movie at least once a week.
Yeah.
Because it impacted me. And like it's just so unique and I love it. Anyway, I'm sorry. Continue.
Yeah. No, that's also an awesome movie. But it's also a movie that if you recommend to someone, they have to kind of be into arty movies. And
Yeah, because that scene, there was a Twitter thread, what's the most intimate scene where no one's having sex on Twitter? And like people were like, suggesting the movies. And I'm just thinking of that scene where they almost kiss in A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night. That really close up shot. And I'm just thinking, I was like, oh damn. Like the emotion in that scene.
Yeah.
And then they just pull back. And I was like, oh.
It's a good movie.
Such a
But
cool
that
film.
scene is easily matched in Fast and Furious 5 where Dom goes, "This is Brazil," and him and
pull out all the guns.
yeah, him and Shaw
Have you
about to
seen the
kiss.
trailer for Fast X?
I have.
Because they revert that.
Yeah.
Not revert. Subvert that.
Yeah,
Where him and Shaw are about to kiss, and then number one, Fast and Furious number one, where he's like, "Hey man, he was in my face," and it's like, "I'm in your face." So I'm just saying, there's been plenty of intimate non-sexual.
No, I know. But you got to watch
He's
a
not
girl walks.
saying that.
You have to watch a girl walks home alone. Right?
Yeah.
Continue, James.
Anyway,
My
then
list
You
is
have to
lovely.
watch Fast and Furious.
Yeah. That director, she did a new movie called Mona Lisa and the Blood Moon, which is a weird kind of not sci-fi, not horror, sort of little elements of both, bit of fantasy, bit of drama, bit of comedy. Without going too much into it, it's about a young woman who escapes from a mental hospital and finds out she has like psychic powers.
Cool.
And basically goes on like a journey through the New Orleans underbelly.
Cool.
She meets a stripper who takes her in.
Cool.
And they start scamming people using the psychic abilities, and then the cops get wind of it and
They hide out at the House of the Rising Sun.
yeah, and so there are elements of it that I really liked. The kind of New Orleans gritty. It's got that. I used the word magical realism earlier in the episode.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the right term, but it's like fantasy, but not all the way crazy
Yeah.
sword and sorcery
Yeah,
things.
yeah,
It's just
yeah.
like she's got psychic powers. There's something weird going on, and she meets some weird characters. It's it's a low budget movie, not a lot going on, but it's just an interesting stylistic. The music is
Yeah.
cool and but it doesn't really quite ever
Yeah.
click. There's also a whole thing where the stripper has a son, and Mona, the main character, and the son and he's like 10, and she's like 20 or 30, and it's like they're like, oh, let's get away from this awful place and run away together. And the kid's performance isn't great, and the writing is bad.
Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
no, probably not all entirely his fault. So I think they could have done a better job with that of
Yeah.
like making it more desperate and making it you feel more like they need to get out of this. And I think Mona herself, even though the whole point is she's just coming out of the mental hospital and she's like experiencing things for the first time,
Yeah.
I think they could have done a better job kind of
All right.
developing that.
Significant other.
Oh, not a good movie. So I think, Nathan, did you watch that movie Watcher about the guy looking through the window?
No, but I'm familiar with the actual story behind it.
Oh,
Is
you
it
never
true-
watched
the
it?
True, is that based on the true story?
No. That's the Naomi Watts Netflix show,
Yeah.
The Watcher. Talking about Watcher, the one on Netflix or one of the streaming services about the young woman who moves to Romania with her husband, and there's the creepy guy watching her through the window, and she's like, "There's a guy there." You said you started watching it. You probably didn't finish it, I assume.
Oh no, I didn't finish.
Okay, yeah. You should stop watching 5 minutes of a movie and then telling me and then not watching it. Either watch it or don't. Because that happens a lot. Anyway, so Micah Monroe, I don't want to say this. I don't want to say this to disrespect her.
Wait, are we talking about The Watcher or Significant Other?
I'm connecting them. Micah Monroe, I'm not saying this is disrespect her, but she's become a sort of horror movie actress. I don't mean that in a negative way.
Yeah,
I just
yeah.
mean that she has found success in that genre.
Yeah.
She hasn't blown up. She's been in some big A-list movies, but she hasn't blown up to an A-list star.
Yeah.
I love her. She's in It Follows. She's the main girl in It Follows. She's in The Guest, another great horror movie, sort of thriller. So she's part of that genre. So if you're a fan of those movies, like I am, like you know who she is.
Yeah.
And
Is she like the female version of Patrick Wilson? Sorry, Josh Lambert? No. Patrick Wilson.
All right, let's move on. We don't have a lot of time. Anyway, so I saw Micah Monroe. She was in 2 movies in 2022. One was Watcher, which was like a horror thriller about a young woman who moves to Romania with her husband, and she's like a fish out of water. She doesn't speak the language. She's at home on her own a lot of the time. She feels like lonely and alienated. and she sees some creepy guy watching her through the window, and she keeps telling people that guy's watching me, and there's murders going on.
This sounds like men.
Can she
around
close the
the
curtain?
town. Yeah, she does, but it keeps escalating.
Okay.
Anyway, she keeps pointing it out, and people keep gaslighting her, like it's not true, there's no one there, whatever, and it keeps escalating.
Turn out the whole town's in on it, and then they sacrifice it to the god.
That's another movie, but that would
That's
be good.
that's men.
Yeah, write
but,
that down. Anyway, it was a good little thriller.
Yeah.
She was also in another movie called Significant Other, which is like was straight to Paramount Plus or something. So I did like a little Michael Monroe double. I watched Watcher, which is good. Then I watched Significant Other, which
was significantly worse.
Yes, exactly. I wasn't expecting anything great, but I was like, it's a streaming horror kind of sci-fi, whatever. It's about a woman and her husband go hiking in the woods. I don't know how much I should say because I don't want to spoil it, but also it's not worth watching. So
Her husband's not who he seems.
yes, exactly. Something happens and her husband comes back and he's not as he seems.
Yeah. Cool.
The first half an hour, when they're setting up the mystery, I'm like, this is fine. But then it gets into dumb, low budget, bad CGI sci-fi territory.
Yeah.
And it just kind of becomes kind of schlocky and not in the fun way.
Yeah.
So that's Significant Other is not worth watching, but if you like thrillers, Watcher is worth watching. Not the Netflix series, the movie.
Last one.
Ruining the day. Black Adam and Black Panther will have
Oh,
a
no, I was
photo.
going to say Uma.
I'll do Uma really quickly. Not worth watching, but an interesting horror movie with Sandra Oh about Uma means mother in Korean. It's about a woman who's estranged from her abusive mother. She goes to live in like the California countryside with her daughter. And then one day her uncle comes and is like, your mother died. Here's her ashes. Here's her stuff. You know, you have to reconcile your bad blood between you, even though she's gone. And then some hauntings start happening. And it's basically, about...
Yeah.
The kind of cultural aspect is interesting, but the movie's not very good. I rolled my eyes a couple times. The horror isn't very good. The acting isn't particularly... It's not well written. But it's not very long. It's like an hour and 20 minutes. And the cultural aspect makes it a bit more interesting.
That's why we drop our urn in the river.
Superhero movies, The Batman, not that great. Not as good as people were saying it is.
Too much angst.
Yeah.
Out of 10, but still.
Or not enough.
Black
Not
Adam.
the Penguin, more Penguin.
So Black Adam, I wasn't expecting it to be good, but yeah, it was really bad. The editing and cinematography is shockingly awful. As we knew would happen, The Rock just does The Rock, but also the movie is written in such a strange way where he's like a supporting character in his own movie. They should have just done Shazam versus Black Adam and gotten it out of the way. I'm so glad that James Gunn has come in and is just like, nah, you're done.
Yeah.
No more. Thank God for that.
Can we swap him with Idris Elba?
Idris Elba's not in it.
Is he willing to be Black Adam?
Oh, like in future?
Yeah.
I'll ask him.
Well, people are saying he should play Green Lantern.
Yes.
People want him to play James Bond, but he's too old to be James
I think
Bond.
he's
That's
too
the
old.
only problem.
I think even if he plays Green Lantern, it's like he's a bit older now. Yeah.
Like, that's the problem. Idris Elba in the Wire years, up for
Oh,
anything.
man.
But he wasn't big enough.
Yeah.
Now he's big enough. He's too old for all these cool roles. It's the unfortunate catch-22. When the other actor's big enough, he's
String
too
a
old
bell.
for all these
They'll get
action...
him
What
in
a
Marvel
G.
eventually. Has he
Yeah.
been in? No, he has been in Marvel. He was
Heimdall.
Heimdall, yeah.
Yeah, but like he can't be kind of like the big action hero anymore as one of these younger
He still
roles.
can, but I think there's specific roles where
Yeah.
I'm
He's
like,
got to be an
that
older
doesn't-
role. That's
Yeah, he has to have an
Yeah.
older role.
I guess I heard when they do Green Lantern, they were going to do lanterns, so they were going to have multiple.
He can be an
so
older
he could be the
Lantern,
older,
yes.
but I don't want him as the
And
main young Lantern.
Eventually, they're going to do multiverse anyway, so I'm sure he could be like Jon Stewart when he's 50.
Yeah,
in his
that
50s.
could be cool.
Anyway, what was I talking about? Black Adam. Yeah. Pierce Brosnan as Dr. Fate was actually pretty cool. He was like the
course,
coolest part of the
yeah.
movie. And the guy who played Hawkman was also kind of cool. But yeah, the movie's not good. CGI is awful. There's no good villain.
Was it Patrick Wilson as Hawkman?
No, he's...
Oh.
What's with his obsession with Patrick Wilson?
No, he was that
Is
Hawkeye.
it because he's in.
He was the Hawkeye in Watchmen, wasn't
Oh, he's Night Owl.
he? There we go.
Night Owl.
See,
Night Owl, yeah,
see,
yeah, yeah.
I was connecting it somewhere.
Technically part of the DCU now.
Congratulations.
I did it.
Yeah, and Alan, you want to talk about Black Panther: Wakanda Forever?
Yes.
We
No,
reviewed. We reviewed.
We don't want
this.
to talk
We don't
about
want to talk about it.
Yeah.
We reviewed this, but Alan had COVID. He couldn't come.
Something
I-
like that.
I
Yeah,
was
you
hacking
wanted
up
to
a
be
lung.
here. You wanted
You got,
to be here.
I think you got
yeah.
sick or
Yeah.
something. You couldn't come.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think you wanted.
Well, did you
to be
want? We already talked about it. Did you want to talk?
Like, okay, so if anyone's going to accuse me of anything, I'm a coloured man. So let's bring
He's
it.
our diversity hire.
Bring it. Like, just absolute shenanigans. Like the whole idea of Shruti. I think this is
Shuri.
Shuri being angry at like the world and the white man's when like
We talked about this on the episode. I remember because Alan texted in. while he
T'Challa
was
dies
sick.
of an undisclosed cancerous illness.
I remember I understand why the character is angry, but also I understand why the filmmakers were angry. And personally, as an audience member who wasn't really connected to Chadwick Boseman in any real sense, I was angry because it's such an unfortunate thing.
Yeah.
And the movie, I think, is trying to reconcile with that and going like, what do? We lost a great guy and our main character, and a lot of the runtime of Wakanda Forever, which is like quite a long movie, is them trying to put into places, okay, who's going to be Black Panther, what's going to go on, and I think that anger is justified. It just maybe
It's
potentially
brought out on like I don't know the wrong kind of.
The movie doesn't know what to do with the end.
yeah, potentially it's not developed.
It was
Yeah.
well
misdirected.
The anger. There we go. Thank you, Callum. It was very
Yeah.
much misdirected. I will say, I think the choice of using Michael B. Jordan's Killmonger as her ancestral
Yeah.
plane individual
That was good.
was quite well.
That was
done.
like a dark. She's going to the dark
Yeah.
side.
Yeah,
and
my-
supposed to-
My whole problem with, we talked about this on the show, my whole problem with the way the movie was written was at the end of the first Black Panther movie, Chadwick Boseman was like, we're opening all back up, we're repairing our relations with the world, and Black Panther 2 shits all over it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're just like, nah, close to
Like,
business.
get out of here, Frenchies.
We talked about it where it's just like, yeah, they had so much to do, and
Yeah.
a large part of it was like trying to retcon certain things and change things
And they kind of just
and
destroyed the
replace
message.
Chadwick Boseman.
They destroyed the message of the first movie, which is a message about cooperation and kind
Helping
of helping other
people.
people.
Yeah. So
and they reverse all of that for
absolute
them
best
to-
scene in that. The first one was when T'Challa says in the ancestral plane to his father that you were wrong, all of you were wrong to turn your back on the world.
Yeah.
Where he like sees that this is what he is, but it's wrong, and he's supposed to fix it.
Yeah.
That, and then you
The
go to number
movie-
2, and you're just like, nah.
The movie
Screw it.
after losing Chadwick Boseman, the movie definitely
Dipped.
did a bad job in trying to
Like, you're not honoring the
yeah,
former Black
because-
Panther by
because-
disrespecting his wishes.
Yeah, but because they now had the problem of like we have to replace him and we have to jump through all these hoops just to
It's
get
like
to
you
that
could have just had
point.
a movie from Shuri's perspective of her trying to honor her brother's
Yeah.
wishes.
That would have been better. I think the strength of the movie, as we discussed in our review, is Namor.
Namor, yeah.
Namor.
The fact that they actually,
Namor.
I think, like I said, yeah, Namor, because we're not the racists like those in
Namor.
Wakanda who go, oh, Namor, and he's like,
Namor.
Namor, and they're like, Namor. Anyway,
Well, they're Aussies in Wakanda. Namor.
Namor, mate.
Namor, mate.
No more?
No more? Namor.
No, I was very sad because I hated the interpretation.
Namor.
I hated the interpretation of Namor from the trailer, and then like I
And
said in
then
the
the
review,
movie was awesome.
and then when I watched the movie, I was like, "Wow, this actually works."
Yeah.
Because for those who know me off air, I'm a massive '80s comics fan, and I was like, "No, give him the wings, give him the dumb outfit. I want all that stuff." But no, they actually nailed their interpretation of Namor. I thought was, apart from the origin of his powers, I thought was dumb and stupid and.
No, it made
Always.
sense.
Now the flowers, it's like just give him the blessing from Kukulkan. It's done. You don't have to over-explain it. We don't have to have a connection between the Aztec
It was
cultures and
fine.
Wakanda, the
It's fine.
plants,
They
and
had
all
to
that
get
stuff.
the plant back, remember?
No,
That's the thing. The movie's doing a lot. And
Yeah.
it suffers because it's juggling so many,
But
spinning so
still-
many plates and
I still, yeah, it was-
juggling chainsaws.
He's up
Surprisingly
for,
high
he's up for
quality.
number 3.
Anyway.
Shuri gets challenged for the captaincy of Wakanda, and then because she had to give back the
No, but isn't what's his name king now? M'Baku.
M'Baku, yeah.
M'Baku as MVP.
Yeah.
He's king now.
Is
and
he?
She's,
Yeah.
and
Done.
they're splitting the
Yeah.
rule
Good.
because he's a better ruler, but she's a better Black Panther.
Yeah.
So I was like, that's a great ending.
Also, he's like the best character in
Yeah,
like
he's
the Black
like-
Panther
he's a
franchise.
and
Anyway,
he's legitimately the better ruler.
Yeah.
And he's vegetarian.
I love the what is it what is it the sounds that his group of people make? They make that sound.
The gorilla noise.
Yeah, it's,
Yeah.
I love that when like you'll say something and his boys will be like, ooh, ooh. Like
He's so
yeah,
good.
nice.
Anyway, yeah. This movie, this show just became about Black Panther. But yeah,
I had to have my piece.
I think no, you got I think. Do you guys want to mention anything else?
No, I'm good.
There's like 50 more movies to go through, but I think
no.
that's enough.
Yeah.
I will scan my lists with its scribbles and put it on Instagram, maybe.
Yeah.
We didn't put the list up on Twitter last week's 25
Because it
top
wasn't
25.
finished.
Yeah. No, but the top 25. I took a screenshot of the top 25 and I put it on Instagram for the last week's episode. This week I'll just scan both pages with all my scribbles.
Yeah.
And put them on Instagram. So if you want to see the full list, go to Instagram
I'll
at
keep
Tuesday
them on.
Review AU.
Instagram's where
And
we
We
care
had
the
taken a
most.
trip to the east.
Next week,
yes.
yes, there's keep an ear out for that. Knock on wood, something bad doesn't happen. But because we're always going on hiatus or something crazy. There's always something crazy going on.
We went on
in
a
the world.
run. We went on a run.
We have, yeah. Don't jinx it. Fingers crossed. Knock on wood. What was I saying? Instagram, yeah. At Tuesday Review AU. I was saying something else.
Are you still rocking Channel Drifter?
I still have the account, but I don't post anything anymore. Oh, that's what I was going to say. If you want to talk about some of these movies, if you have movies you want to highlight from 2022, if you have favorite movies from 2022, message us at Tuesday Review AU, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, or email us at thetuesdayreview@outlook.com. We're trying to set up our website with some new email addresses, so hopefully we'll.
Oh, those are
get that
active, I
in the
think.
future. No, but we need a centralized one so everyone
I'll
can
set that up,
check.
yeah.
Everyone can check, but so we all have access to the same inbox.
Yes.
So
So we'll call
fans
it
will-
contact at tuesdayreview.com.
something like that. Yeah. But yeah, we'll talk about that when that happens. Yeah, we're trying to delete. We want to get off Twitter. So if you're on Twitter, get off it. Move over to our Instagram. And
Don't pay for Twitter
Pry it
Blue.
out of my
Don't-
cold
yeah.
dead hands.
Maybe, I mean, I don't know if people are still on Boomer Book, but we still got it up there. But Instagram seems to be our main one at the moment. Not that Meta's any better than other companies, but
There's a new one, Blue Sky or something. There's some
By
Twitter-
Jack Dorsey.
Truth
Yeah.
Social.
Mastodon, Parler.
Telegram.
Not Parler. Mastodon maybe. There's some
4chan.
Twitter
Find us 4chan.
competitor that's in beta right
if
now.
we can,
Stay off 4chan.
if we can convince Alan, maybe we can get a YouTube started soon.
That deal.
Yeah,
it's better than
or
finding us
YouTube
for that
clips. yeah,
YouTube
clip channels.
clips. We're not. I'm not ready for TikTok, but
Yeah,
YouTube
see what
Shorts.
we talk. See what we
YouTube
talk about.
Shorts.
See what we talk about during the ads.
YouTube Shorts. Maybe we'll put up.
Age restricted demonetized.
We'll put up a GoPro.
DSLR or something.
Yeah, put up a couple of GoPros in the corner of the studio. We have to put pants on for that, but yeah, we'll see. Yeah, so thanks for listening. I hope this wasn't too boring. I hope this was
No, I had a great time.
somewhat enlightening. And
Calm stayed awake the whole episode.
I'm
Yeah,
never
that's
doing
it.
this again. This was too
We'll
much.
have a better list next year. More collaborative.
Yeah. Also, next year I'm not going to do that marathon like I did this year, where I spent a percentage of last year watching movies that came out, and then spent the last 4 months of 2023 catching up. I think next year I won't do that. Where it's not going to be as comprehensive.
But watch what
But
you
if
want.
we do, if we do anything like this, it won't be as.
Laborious.
Yeah, I won't drive myself crazy trying to rank things and list things and order things.
All right, that's about all the time we've got for tonight. Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll be back next week. Adios, cousins.